Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Tom Bilyeu Show live. We are excited to have you all with us. And speaking of with us, we are joined today, as always, by Drew. Drew, what is up? Good morning.
Good morning.
We've got Mason over here on the community. Excellent to have you. And then we've got the team behind the scenes rocking it. They are maybe invisible to you guys, but they are very much a part of our world here. And we're excited that you guys are joining us because Trump has decided to take over DC. And I'm only sort of kidding. Trump and Putin are set to meet in Alaska to discuss the Russia-Ukraine war. Hopefully we can make some progress there. We'll be talking more about that, whether Zelensky is going to join. That is the big question mark right now. And how much progress is there going to be made when the Ukrainian constitution says that they are not going to hand over any of their land? Andrew Cuomo fires shots at socialist New York mayoral candidate Mamdani. One of the people I like talking the most about. I really think that the world is melting down. I think socialists are out of their minds. I think economically they are completely illiterate. And I can't wait to talk more about that. But I think that they do have their finger on a real problem, which is America is growing more and more unaffordable by the day. So they've got their finger on the right problem and they have an absolutely disastrous solution. We'll be diving into that. Hopefully you guys will tell me what you think, because I feel like we are in a battle for the soul of America. We were talking about that here yesterday. I recently had Hassan on the show. Very excited for you guys to see that episode. Drew, next week?
Yeah, Tuesday.
All right, let's go. Let's see what you guys think. And debating socialism, whether that's the right direction, not debating, but discussing that with somebody obviously who spends a lot of time thinking about that, talking about that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed my time with him. Hopefully it is the first of many, but we certainly disagree on what the solutions are, but we'll talk some more about that stuff. And speaking of solutions that may not be working, Ray Dalio is saying that owning real estate is no longer an effective method for building wealth. That's terrifying, given that that is, as I have said a gazillion times, the only asset, and you must own assets if you want to survive inflation. It is the only asset that people understand intuitively. But given its sensitivity to interest rates, as Ray Dalio is pointing out, it may not be the way for people to build wealth. So the American dream gets another nail in the coffin, everybody. That's where we're at. It's a wacky time. It's so wacky, the UK is continuing their full 1984 conversion with catcall arrests. Boy, do I wish I was making that up. Elon and Sam Altman prove that you can be ultra wealthy and still hella petty. That's going to be fun. And if you guys are not playing with AI, I'm telling you right now, get to it, because you can one-shot things now with AI. That is absolutely going to blow your mind. The future is going to be very different than the present. It is wild. And speaking of the future, I am now wearing AR glasses. I've been talking about these for years and years and years. And this is like the first instantiation that I think is really going somewhere. So shout out to our sponsors who are not sponsoring this live. I'm just legitimately this excited about these, even reality glasses. So I'll keep you guys updated as to whether or not the actual wearing of them as cool as I hope is going to be. But so far I'm into it. All right, Drew, DC is getting taken over. This really is like it's authoritarian to be sure. Like, this is Trump. He has these tendencies. He actually wants to take over everything. And if you let him, he will run your household. He will take over your state. Like, there's no doubt he has all of those impulses. I did my best to actually figure out what's going on with the crime statistics in DC to see if this is really warranted, because when you declare a crime emergency, there better be an actual crime emergency. I would say that's definitely not true. Like, there are cities that are more problematic than DC for sure. So this is very much, hey, it's my backyard. Fair enough. It is the highest risk thing that I can put my hands on. Sure. But in terms of it being a crime emergency, if we're going to say that, then there are a lot of places in the US that are crime emergencies. So, but the thing that I found really distressing as I started researching all of this is that we don't have good data. The FBI has changed their, the method by which they track the crimes in 2021. And so some massive amount of the cities in America are basically like, we're not prepared to report in that either sophisticated or deep way that they're now requesting. So even places like Los Angeles are just like, I don't know, bro. Like, a lot of people getting mugged, but who the fuck knows? So it is, it's very difficult. And so all of the pundits that are talking about this particular thing that are trying to use stats, like they're all playing really fast and loose games. The second you try to pinpoint the data from multiple different angles, you get like all these wild answers. It seems like DC, when you take the size of city that it is, it's in 4th place. Not that that's not terrible. This is homicide. Not that it's not terrible. It is terrible. But again, it's declining. And so when you say in the face of it declining that there's a crime emergency, that all feels power grabby to me.
Yeah, this is the second time he deployed the National Guard to a U.S. city in the 7 months that he's been in office. I feel like that's a record right there in and of itself.
I wouldn't be surprised. Do we actually have a real answer for that?
I don't, but I just can't remember a sitting president deploying the National Guard to 2 cities in 6 months. So,
yeah, probably not in our lifetimes.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those things. But in general, this is his announcement. This is from the Rapid Response page on Twitter when he announced that he's using the DC Home Rule Act, which allows him to control the federal municipalities as well as the police department for 30 days.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States. I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department.
So even Muriel Bowser, the mayor of D.C., is not putting up a fight from that perspective. He really does have the authority to do this. So the question becomes not can he do it, but the question is why is he doing it? To your point, he's deploying National Guard to Los Angeles, which, by the way, I was totally here for. I think that there's no doubt that there is a notion in Los Angeles, just to be very clear, California more at large, certainly a growing sentiment that crime is like a cry for help and that we need to like be more understanding. And my thing is, listen, it may be a cry for help, but that's not the way to cry for help. And you've got to have limits. You've got to put boundaries on things. And this is just like a kid will throw a tantrum because they're hungry, they're tired, but lashing out, grabbing a vase in the house, smashing it on the floor is not an acceptable way to make clear that you need a nap or that you want to eat or whatever. So this is where I think that there needs to be very clear boundaries. You cannot let a small group of people that have legitimate grievances terrorize everybody else. So to me, everything starts with you've got to make the place safe. And when you've got people burning cars and things in the streets, that's wild. Like, you should not accept that. And there was way too much like sort of minor condemnation on the behalf of Karen Bass, the mayor here, versus like rolling in and being like, we're absolutely not going to tolerate this. Same with Gavin Newsom. I think that they're way too weak in terms of like what it should feel like to live here. And as somebody that's lived in California for 30 plus years now, it's like I've watched it go from rough to good and back to rough, and it's worse. And so getting that stabilized, I think, makes a lot of sense. But the question is, how far do we want to let the federal government go? And I would advise everybody, as you're thinking through this issue, assume that it's the team you don't like that's in power. And they're going to be like, well, they did it. So you might like Trump, you might like what he's doing. But if you don't like the president and you don't like what they're doing, where do you want those checks and balances to exist? And so that's what I would say people need to be pretty careful. If you can't see the authoritarian tendencies in Donald Trump, you're just not paying attention.
Yeah. So let's wrap up this video.
Under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough, and they know what's happening, and they've done it before. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly. I'm announcing.
So this is also on the back of the Pentagon has announced that they're issuing a task force, which is basically 600 troops on deck. They'll be deployed within an hour at any U.S. city. So this is starting to become like a precedent. Would you be okay if Trump, DC's number 4, to your point, if he did the same thing for the top 3 cities? And then it went to the whole top 10 and he became deploying these mobile military forces to different cities in the U.S.?
My very brief answer is no, I would not, but I certainly understand what the battle is. And so if I can get people out of conspiratorial thinking and get them into just like what is the most likely brass tacks of it all, is you have a divided faction in America between the left and the right. Both sides have become pathological, but they each have a tendency. And so if you understand what the tendencies are, you'll have an easier time understanding what's happening right now. And the tendencies are very simple. You have one side from an evolutionary standpoint, the left is going to err on the side of compassion. It gets muddled in with resentment. Do not get me wrong. That's very clear to me. But if you map them as somebody that they really do have a natural inclination towards, I just hate to see other people suffer. I want everybody to do well. I have a very easy time justifying being on that side and saying, hey, look, somebody that grew up hard, was abused, the fact that they become a criminal when they're older, like I get that. So take someone like Robert Sapolsky. Okay, Robert Sapolsky is brilliant. I've learned so much from him. Had him on the show. He's a Stanford professor, if I remember correctly, and he's an evolutionary biologist. And he talks about he wrote what I consider the definitive book on the fact that humans are automata. So it's called Determined. And he's just like, it doesn't make any sense to take somebody that's drug and alcohol impacted in utero. They grow up, they're abused. When they get older, of course, like the brain development is going to be totally fucked up. And so if you think like this is somebody who quote unquote deserves to be punished, he's like, you're out of your mind. Now, at the same time, he's very clear-headed that you need to get them off the streets. Okay, so somebody like that who is, in my opinion, very much of the left, very much driven by compassion, but also grounded in reality of like, this is how we get where we are. So even though I think that that's going too far, people are giving too much latitude, people are tolerating a level of crime that I think is patently absurd and I don't know what they're thinking, but like that's where they're headed. People on the right are, evolutionarily speaking, they're focused on personal responsibility. They're making sure that the group doesn't have freeloaders. I've talked a gazillion times, when you get a healthy tension between the left and the right and you think from an evolutionary perspective, now you're in the position of, oh, the tribe can thrive because we don't just leave everybody to starve to death. And like if you hear some of the stories of the Spartans, it's brutal. Yeah. Literally, they will leave babies up on a mountaintop to die because it's like, that baby's not going to be strong enough. Not a society I want to be a part of. So it's like you need both sides, but there needs to be a healthy tension. The problem is we're getting so far apart from each other that both sides are being overly aggressive towards their side. So it's personal responsibility to a problematic level. It's compassion to a problematic level. Nobody wants to be in the middle. Everybody's saying the other side is evil, sinister, blah, blah, blah. So I'm saying, I look at that and I just go, okay, Trump is a symptom of the moment that we're in. He's not the cause. So he rises to power specifically because he's looking at his side, the right, and he's saying, yeah, we've got to have like more personal responsibility. We've got to hold people accountable. Law and order is like catnip for people with that personality. And so it's like they're going to gravitate towards that. That's going to be a huge drum that they beat. And so they're beating that drum. Trump also has a personal penchant for wanting to be in control, wanting to be in power. And look, as a CEO, like that's a real thing. So this guy's come up as a CEO, spent his whole life running companies. It is very hard, and you have to get very good at getting people on your team pointed in the same direction. But at the same time, when it comes to it, you've got to be willing to big dog. So that's who rises up in a moment like this. And so he's got CEO tendencies. He's got a personal proclivity, in my estimation, to narcissism, to authoritarianism, and he's on the right, which right now is going pathologically personal responsibility. So you put all that together and he's like, I'm elected. I've got the mandate. He's looking around at the country and he's like, yeah, I see a bunch of these places where my beloved citizens are being abused by criminals and I'm going to get us back in order. That's what I was elected to do. And so when I read Twitter comments and stuff, I think people want to push it to somewhere that it doesn't need to be pushed, that there's like some secret conspiracy. So to be honest, like even in the chat right now, people are talking about like, if you know, you know. If I know, I know what? Like just say the fucking thing. So there's a similar thing going on because Trump is now also doing what I think is very easily explained as American propaganda. Yeah. So he's targeting, I don't know what is the right word to use, but he's going after the Smithsonian. And he's like, okay, we're coming in. People are conflating We're coming into DC because it's the hotspot zone that I can control, that I can show my base, and honestly, that he probably just is into it. Like, I'm going to get control. I'm going to get rid of the bad guys. I'm going to make them behave. I'm going to show you daddy's home. Like, he loves all that shit. Mm-hmm. And so he's coming into DC because that's a place that he can do it. It is bad, by the way. Like, if you look at the stats, anybody that's like, no, DC's fine. Like, even though it's declining, it's still horrific. It's still like top 10 most violent crime, top 5 homicide per capita. This is not like a thriving place. Mm-hmm. It is for sure struggling. But it's the place that he can go take over. But if you look at then what he's doing with the Smithsonian, and people are talking about there's tunnels under the Smithsonian, and it's really about like bringing troops through the tunnels and stuff. I'm just like, hold on. What's far more likely? Propaganda matters. Trump is going to do American propaganda. He's telling you what he's doing, that I want to audit the Smithsonian for, it's our 250th birthday coming up, and I want to audit what story they're telling about America. He doesn't want to go in and find the 1667, what the fuck? What is that?
The 1767.
No, it's the America was born on the back of slavery, 1667. I think it's around there. Chat, help us out here. So that whole idea, like, what is America, just a founded on slavery, racist nation, or are we telling a pro-American story? And the reality is, every president is going to do propaganda. Every word out of everyone's mouth, myself included, is a choice. You're choosing one word over another.
Yeah.
We are all, by definition, framing things. Even if we don't have ill intent, you have to select from thousands of words, and you boil it down to, whatever the 782 words that you use. And so people are always framing. Politicians are that times 1,000. So when I look at that stuff, I see a very simple explanation of why he's going into DC. I see a simple explanation of why he would want to go into other cities. I see a simple explanation for why he's going to audit the Smithsonian. And you don't have to go to conspiracy.
It just seems like a thing of control.
It's not just control. It's
controlling the narrative.
It's all the things that I just went through. But the propaganda side is that we all are in a battle for narrative, full stop, at all times. And so it's just, with social media, it's so naked. You see it everywhere. But you don't have to go to conspiracy land to understand why any and every president is going to try to control the narrative.
Got you. I think it's one of those things that we're having a problem with tactics versus actually solution. Because him coming into DC, yes, DC is a crime-ridden country, but there's a story of two DCs, just like there's a story of two LAs, just like there's a story of a lot of two cities. There's the thriving 9-to-5 lifestyle. There's the people that got it, the senators, the politicians, they still live there. So it's not all squalor because they still have homes there and they're still living there and residing there. And then there's the underbelly, the underfunded schools, the people that are just, they started at the bottom, they're staying at the bottom, they're not getting the resources to ever get ahead. So while, yes, I think DC needs to be cleaned up in a way that I wish all underprivileged and under-thriving communities need to be cleaned up, I'm looking at it specifically as this is Trump putting in, I'm taking control of this city. I'm taking control of the museums. I'm taking control of what is happening, what's being told.
Do you think, though, that the only thing driving him is a desire for control? Or, like with LA, he came in, squelched the riots, and then left?
Yeah, but the whole squash the riots thing, he was here a week after. They had that whole parade through Leimert Park for no reason. So I do think that he is trying to get the photos and the ops and say, hey, look at me, I'm doing this. I got the win. But just because you put a bunch of police in a place doesn't mean you're going to clean it up. That's like, crime is a result of something. Crime isn't just like this native thing that happens. If you go back to like other third world developing countries, they don't have a law and order system, but that doesn't mean that their crime is more rampant. It's just there's nothing there. So I think as much as he's
I'm not following that logic. So what I think you're saying is take a third world country. It's the underlying cause of that is something else. And the argument that I would have is, while yes, I agree that the underlying cause is, let's round it to poverty. When people don't believe that their future is going to be better than their present, they don't invest. When they think that their kids are going to do worse than they're doing even, they're not going to invest. When the easiest way to put food on your table is to steal it, there's going to be a certain percentage of people that will steal it. If there's no repercussions for stealing it, then that number is going to go up dramatically. But if you look at somewhere like El Salvador, which has had such a radical reversal of crime and internal sentiment by literally just saying, oh, 2% of the people cause, 85% of the crime, then we're going to lock up that 2%, period, end of story. And if we lock up 2.3% and the 0.3% are innocent, tough shit. Like, we're going to clean up the streets, period, end of story. And that's that. And the good or bad news is it works.
So the DC thing, let's go in there, send in a bunch of cops, lock a bunch of people up, and DC will be safer.
I'm saying that's what Trump's playbook is, and there's reason to believe that really will work. So now my whole thing is, when you're doing that, you are focusing on dealing with the symptoms. So the example I always use is the rash that I had, and I was given all these topical creams and told it's something in my detergent. And of course, it ended up being something I was eating. So if you don't solve the underlying economic issue and cultural issue, to be fair, like, you're always going to have to be draconian. And my hope would be that people understand, okay, the draconian measure is useful in terms of getting things in check so that we can invest, right? This is exactly what you see in Argentina, is they're finally making economic decisions that makes investors go, selfishly, I'm going to put money in Argentina because I'm willing to bet Argentina's headed in the right direction. Now, whether people should have invested in Argentina when they were struggling the most, like from a moral standpoint or not, is irrelevant. The reality is you're far more likely to get a return when they stabilize. And then once they're stabilized, as almost like a law of nature, the capital begins to flood into the country. And so I'm just saying, follow the physics. Trump knows if you put a military presence, as much as that's going to rub some people the wrong way, you really will lower crime. Like, the odds that he lowers crime by adding 900 officers borders on 100%. And so it's not a question of will it work? It's a question of, well, do I want to live in a military state? Am I looking around the street and I'm seeing people with big guns and I hate everything about that? Is it that I see them like bringing out hoses and spraying the homeless down to make them move on, or they're arresting homeless, or they're forcing them into treatment facilities? And I don't like that. Something feels wrong about that. Like, that's going to be the battle. It won't be that it didn't work, I don't think.
The question in chat right now is, what was the inciting incident for him to do the DC takeover?
I mean, probably big balls, but like, that's theater.
Gotcha. So ChatGPT, not our chat, said that it was because a former, sorry, give me 1 second to find it.
A former Doge
there was an
employee.
assault on a former Doge
That's
staffer that included a carjacking.
Big balls.
But then does that actually make the statement valid that DC is just a crime-ridden city?
Well, the stats show you that DC is a crime-ridden city.
And our chat says that it's actually not, and the rates are lower than they have been.
I did not come to play today, so let's pull up the actual stats. So I spent all morning looking into this. So most recent definitive ranking. So if you treat DC like a state, because it is shockingly hard to get accurate data on cities because of differences in population size. And so that's going to affect things differently. But if you take DC, treat it like a state, it's number 1 in homicide per capita by a country mile.
Jesus.
So DC, treated as a state, is approximately 30. I mean, no matter how you treat them, there are approximately 30 murders per 100,000 people. The next closest state is Mississippi at 20.5. So it is massively, far and away bigger. Now, when you treat it like a city, it goes down to 4th place. But again, there's so many like complexities about how you look at cities that like almost no matter where you go, because I tried multiple AIs, they're like throwing their hands up about like the city data is very hard to parse. So I can give you like estimates or approximations, blah, blah, blah. But like, there are some people that are claiming that if you take the first half of 2025 and project it out, that they're going to like wildly plummet. But the reality is that just isn't true. Like, if you look at the statistics that are typically used, the most typical being the FBI stats, then they're they are declining. There's no doubt about that, but they're still 27.3 for 100,000. So great, like they're moving in the right direction, but even at 27.3, they would still be number one if treated like a state by a country mile. They're still going to be roughly fourth place. So it's like, and then if you take violent crime, the numbers are very similar. So
I feel like these two data sets are conflicting though.
Which two data sets?
Because if you're going, I'm looking at the ones that you shared. If you're looking at the city rate, I'm seeing 69.4 homicides per 100,000 for St. Louis. I'm seeing Baltimore 51.1 per 100,000. But then when we go to the state level, we're talking about 30.
That's because I pulled those from Grok, but Grok is pulling those from an unverified source that like nobody else uses. Okay. So the second you go, okay, what are the most like reputable sources? Then it goes, there's no easy list to give you. The only corroboratable numbers are, and then that's what I was just reading. So the 17 claim is there. It's out on the internet, but it's like one place is making that claim. And if you literally run the math, then it doesn't make sense in terms of the number of deaths that have already happened. So if you just take the number of deaths that have already happened and then extrapolate that out for the rest of the year, assuming no like unexpected massive
there is a
decline.
drop off in the summertime going into the, so summertime is the highest for murders, and then in the fall and in the winter it usually gets lower.
Sure, but you have a whole bunch of historical data. If you just assume the same trends hold for the rest of the year, it's not like they've never looked at something 6 months.
I'm just saying they're seasonal
through the year. Yeah. You know what I mean? So assuming that all things are consistent, you can expect, given what's already happened in this year, given what we know about the summer, the back half of the year, all of that, that you can expect it to decline, but to about 27.3. So again, we don't have great data for cities. It's all over the map. Everybody agrees that since 2021, that the reporting at the city level is like all over the place. There's these huge gaps. So on that side, what you're going to hear a lot of is people cherry picking the data. They're going to say the thing that they want it to say. And so the real question I would say is to move away from just DC and say, hey, we have a high crime area, a city that is above national averages. How do we want that to be handled? Do we want the federal government to come in and do their thing? Or do we want there to be this delineation between the state and the federal government? And I would say you want a delineation between the state and the federal government. So while I feel a little bit differently about DC because it doesn't have a state under which to get the additional protections, the additional help, because again, even Mayor Bowser is saying, listen, I'm not exactly mad about having additional troops. So like that's going to help us. Now, I haven't seen enough. I'm going to guess that she doesn't love that Trump is like coming in, but from the perspective of, do I want additional help? Yes, I do. And so on that, she's saying he absolutely has the right to do it. If you don't want him to be able to do this, then she said you need to start having the conversation about DC becoming a state. So it's like that on the sort of technical front, that's where we're at. Because it isn't a state, then legally he absolutely, nobody is denying that he has the right to do it. So then it just becomes a question of what is it that we don't like about it? Why wouldn't we want more troops on the ground? And I think the answer is what I was saying before. There's just something about what feels more like a military presence rather than a police presence. There is this guy's just overstepping as a personality trait. There is America is meant to be divided between the states and the federal government. And so this is like a weird gray area, but I think people intuitively feel better with it being treated more like a state and less like something that the president can just put under their thumb. But like the thing that I think people would be wiser to be confronting is how do we address crime? Like crime sucks. Having any place have such a disproportionate murder per capita should make everyone be like, okay, that really does suck. And how do we, like, if you reframe it as how do we help DC? What is it that DC is struggling with? Poverty for Swayze. So it's like, okay, how do we begin to address that? Especially in one of the, like, if you take it as like square miles around DC, it's the richest area in the country. More than Beverly Hills, like politicians make that money. So finding a way to be like, okay, to your point, that crazy divide between the haves and the have-nots, specifically in the DC and Virginia area, like how do we address that? That's massive. You've got mine, which I feel like a total loner on this, which is give up on adults and just focus on kids for the love of God, which I don't hear anybody talking about. Everybody just wants to support the people that are already in trouble. And I'm saying, given that we are automata, I don't think it's possible. I think a very small percentage of people are going to be reached. Like if you're already doing crack on the streets or meth or fentanyl, whatever, like that game's over from where I'm sitting.
Chad has beef with looking at the state numbers. Can you explain your logic as to why that's
when they say they have beef, do they mean I'm confused, or do they mean you're misinterpreting the data and here's how you should actually look at it?
They're saying, why are you looking at the state numbers when it's not a state?
Okay, so for the third or fourth time, I'll try one more. The city data is very hard to get good numbers for. When you look at city data, you've got all kinds of complexities. So even getting someone to give you a list is hard. Like they'll give you, okay, here's probably the top 5, but you're going to get all this language about probably, extrapolation, hedge. And I was like, why do they keep doing this? And the reason that you get hedge in all of the answers is because the data is very hard to track at the city level. In 2021, the FBI changed, the FBI, which is like the primary way that we track statistics in America, crime statistics, changed the way that they track it in 2021. So first of all, you'll see people say back in 2018, back in 2019. It's because it's all before the FBI changed the way that they track data. In 2021, not only do you have the complexities of COVID and people just literally not tracking the data. Okay, so what they call the COVID era breakdown of data tracking. So you've got that working against you. You've also got the FBI change working against you. So at the state level, probably largely because all the cities combine, and so now you just have a bigger number. It's just easier to average everything out. Like, that's easy. There's 50 of them. They're way closer to each other in like aggregated demographics than cities. Because imagine you have a city of like 50,000 people that might have a per capita crime rate that's like insane. And so if you do a breakdown of here are all the cities, per capita crime, and it's like cities you've never even heard of. And you're like, what? And it's like, it could be an agricultural town and there was a family feud and 3 people got killed, but the town is so small that like the numbers just seem off the charts. So then you have to start doing things by population size. And then it's like, where do you break the population size? So anyway, you just get a massive data that's like hedge, caveat. But at the state level, it's like people actually agree, and you will see from multiple sources, people are saying the same thing. So after spending like 2 hours trying to get an answer on city data, I was like, okay, I just accept that the city data is complex. There's always going to be well, what about this? And what about that? But at the state level, things get easier. So again, I'm not like, are people actually saying that DC doesn't have like a crime problem full stop? Or because
they're saying it's apples to oranges, which I think all they're missing is a state is bigger than a city.
Hold on. And it's apples to apples, they're in 4th place. Apples to oranges, they're in 1st place. There you go. So if apples to apples, they were in 173rd place, then I'd be like, okay, I get why people have beef. They go to 4th.
It's
they still have
so high, it matters.
Yes, they still have a somewhere between 27 and 30 homicides per capita. It's wild. So per 100,000, I should be more specific. So, yeah, DC has a problem. How do we help DC? That becomes a question. And I'm totally, hey, I get it if people are like, not this.
And they also, the White House released a statement about how they're going to fix the homelessness problem in D.C. as well.
The Metropolitan Police Department, with the support of the new federal agencies who have been surging on the streets of the District of Columbia, are going to enforce the laws that are already on the books here in Washington, D.C. For far too long, these laws have been completely ignored, and the homelessness problem has ravaged the city. So D.C. Code 22-1307 and D.C. Municipal Regulation 24-100 give the Metropolitan Police Department the authority to take action when it comes to homeless encampments. So homeless individuals will be given the option to leave their encampment, to be taken to a homeless shelter, to be offered addiction or mental health services, and if they refuse, they will be susceptible to fines or to jail time. Again, these are pre-existing laws that are already on the books. They have not been enforced, which is part of the reason for this federalizing of the National Guard to bring in this assistance for law enforcement. While we are targeting criminals and trying to remove criminals off of the streets, we also want to make DC safe and beautiful, and that involves removing mentally disturbed individuals in homeless encampments as well. So we will be using these regulations and code that already exists to clean up our streets.
All right. So, yeah, I don't know why people have beef with this one, to be really honest. But people really have beef with this. But if you have, my base belief
The
is that you
Metropolitan Police
absolutely
give the
cannot
Metropolitan
have people with homeless encampments on the street.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have people doing drugs like open air, ODing, people like in cardiac arrest, being treated right there on the daily in some of the places where this is a real problem, like San Francisco. That's just like, that's a level of stupid to me that I don't understand why people want to live in that. There are going to be people who you're just like, if you don't have some kind of pressure on you to not do this, then the problem is going to grow and grow. But there are people that are everyone is going to respond to that level of pressure, even if just moving somewhere else. So LA for a long time tried to confine the homeless to Skid Row. And if you went to Skid Row, horrible, horrible. You would not wish that on anybody. But better that, in my opinion, than spreading it out everywhere so that everyone can take up whatever real estate they want to say, oh, I'm going to make my homeless encampment here because this is a lovely neighborhood. It's like, hard pass. Absolutely not. That's crazy town. Just like if you have kids in your house, like there's going to be places where you can't bring your toys in here, or you can't like use crayons in this room because I don't want you ruining something. It's like we put boundaries up all the time. I do not understand why people are so opposed to putting boundaries on people that are struggling, whether that the struggle is financial, whether the struggle is mental health, whether the struggle is drugs. It's like, yeah, sorry, there are certain places that you can go when you're in this hard time, and there's certain places that you can't. Simple. Like, yeah, it's wild to me that people are like, don't say anything, don't touch them. I feel the same way about this that I feel about the kids going ham in Walmart. It's like, no.
All right. All the homeless people should go to jail. We should have military in all our cities in the top 10 homicide list. And that's going to make a better America long term in the future.
Now, that's not what I said, but if that's your pitch, I'm open to hear it.
Because I feel like it's okay that DC is bad, so it's okay if we do it just this once. But what we know with all government intervention, just this once doesn't mean just this once. It means precedent.
What's this?
Putting military in a city to clean it up, quote unquote.
Okay.
And then prisons are not actually about rehabilitation or actually helping people. It's about the 13th Amendment and slave labor. So then it becomes, okay, now the people who can't afford to get on the property ladder, the people who can't afford to actually not be homeless. Now, of course, the people who are mentally helped and the people who just want to do drugs, they should go into jail. Then just let them sit there and rot there, and then they can make license plates all day. Then,
do you actually believe that?
If they don't want to get better, then America's not going to do anything for them, so throw them in jail, right?
But is that what, put forward the policy you actually want to see?
The policy I want to see is never going to happen. Because
that's okay. At least this will help me map what you want to see. I want to abolish the Fed. Probably not going to happen. But nonetheless, I'm going to bang that drum from a physics standpoint so people understand why I say that. So walk me through, because you are I think, very well-intentioned person. You're smart. So if you see something that people don't see and you can backtrack to this is why I think this will actually make things better, at a minimum, we can plant the seed in the minds of the future generation, and maybe we don't get to sit in the shade of the tree that we plant, but maybe we can plant it.
Okay. Why the militarization of DC won't become better? Trump is doing this because he's constructing a new ballroom and he wants to have a big party on July 4th of next year. So the reason to do that, the same way that they cleaned up San Francisco overnight when Xi Jinping was coming to visit, is because it's selfish intention. So this is not about crime. This is not about helping people. This is not about forcing the homeless to get treatment or living a better life. It's so that way when people come, they can see Trump's new gold ballroom look good as they have a UFC event on the White House lawn. After that thing is done, just like a lot of Olympic hosting cities, as soon as the party's done and the festivities rolled up, those people are all going to leave. And the thing that has stopped crime, which isn't actually prevention of the first order consequences, it's just let's put a bunch of military people here so that you have to go underground with your crime. So yeah, there won't be a lot of carjacking. You're absolutely right. But those people still don't have opportunities. They still don't have a way to get ahead. They still don't have a way to better their lives. So they're just going to do crime differently. They're just going to different crime. So as we're having this conversation and we're throwing around stats and things like that, it's just, to me, a big pipeline into the prison complex. Like, we're going to go into a bunch of homeless shelters. Trump, look at how they're treating ICE people. Look how they're doing detainments. I don't think that Trump is going to lead this policy with a bunch of empathy into these cities. So he's not going to go into D.C. and say, hey, homeless person, are you doing okay? He's going to spray him with a hose. They're not going to get up. He's going to throw him in the back of a paddy wagon. So this whole, like, we're trying to give them treatment and we're trying to clean it up and we want to help our people. No, you don't. Somebody you knew got attacked, so now it's your problem. But you didn't care about D.C. before. You didn't care about D.C. the last time you lived there for 4 years. And you only care about it now because you're building a nice ballroom and you want to have a party next year. So, like, let's just call a spade a spade.
Well,
and
so
that's the energy that I have right now.
My pushback on that would be, one, none of that was policy. And so this is where I worry about people put their finger on the right thing. Like, when I hear you get emotive about like, man, this is just a feeder into the prison industrial complex. People are just going to do crime differently. I'm like, yeah, that all makes sense. And then I'm like holding my breath for it's where it's like, okay, but now actually do this thing.
Okay, policy would be increase funding to community centers, increase funding to education, so that way they can have after school programs, before school programs, lunch meals before school, after school programs, things like that.
Because you said, like, make education better, I would be with you. But when you say spend more money, we spend more money than anybody else in the world per student, and we get like the worst. I'm
telling specifically where to spend more money, and before and after school programs.
Okay.
Community centers.
But didn't you say education?
Those are all around education. You have to give them to the schools.
So, but we've already spent an insane amount of money on schools. Why hasn't paying more gotten us better results?
Because they haven't been spending it on before school programs, after school programs.
Okay, so if you spend it on the school itself, it doesn't work because you don't have.
That's the same way spending it on taxes. When we spend it on taxes, we're not spending it on local infrastructure. We're
so you think if right now, because right now we've spent more and more and more per student, it hasn't worked. Your hypothesis is, but if you now started funding before and after as well, you'd suddenly reap the benefits of the funds that you've been putting into this.
So the $12,000 that we pay per student goes into a coffin that goes into the Department of Education.
Goes into a coffin?
Yes, into the Department of Education for whatever that municipality is.
I think you mean coffer, or you're making like the greatest.
It's dead, like it's dead money. It's just
going literally
into a black
you mean
hole.
a coffin.
It's going into a black hole.
Got it. Okay.
Just like,
so we're just wasting the money.
We're wasting the money
because we don't have before and after.
Because we don't have before and after school that are subsidized. We don't have school lunches.
So let me walk through the physics of that. So what you're saying is that the students aren't able to learn because they're getting sucked into crime, gangs.
Never said that.
Like, so I'm trying to guess, what is it about the after school? I really don't understand the before school one. So let's start with the after school one. Okay. The after school one cements what you learned during the day. Like, what are we?
The problem with poverty is that you have to spend more and more of your time to allocate to get resources. So when you have to spend more and more of your time to get resources, you don't have that time to sit with your kid and read them stories. You don't have time to tuck them in. So when a kid has no following, has no community, and is just wandering the streets, they are then susceptible to be recruiting by gangs to do nefarious things.
When I said that, though, you said no.
Because I'm going to actually walk it too. So it's not necessarily that you need to go to after school programs.
Not only that.
You don't need to go to after school programs so that way you can cement what you learned in education. You need to go before and after school programs so that way I can get out of this neighborhood if I'm on the path to getting recruited by a gang. If I am only allowed to be in school from 8 to 2, and after that time from 2 to 9 before my mom gets home, and before 7 to 8 before I have to go to school, I have to avoid talking to these people, avoid going on these blocks. I'm getting it's another instance for me to be recruited into a bad situation.
Okay, so the before and after is about keeping them out of bad influence.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So now, if we can keep them out of trouble, they'll be able to do something with what they're learning. And you and I think, both agree that poverty is more than anything, it is an ideas problem. Like, you just have bad ideas. You don't understand assets being one of the many ideas that you're not encountering. Okay, and so keeping the kids out of trouble, and then if I can, I'll add to, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I think there needs to be a fundamental change in the things that we actually teach kids. I don't think we're teaching them how to navigate the current world well. As one just very simple example, I would say teaching them financial literacy would be excruciatingly high.
But then we'll be harder to control, Tom, if we knew that our
God bless
finances
it. I
and the
certainly
Fed is the word
hope.
problem.
I hope that's what ends up coming of it.
The bankers can't give us predatory mortgages.
Good.
We can't. Like,
Praise Jesus. Let's go. I'm
we
here
won't,
for
we
all
won't
that.
take out bad student loans if we know how
Look,
money
I
works.
get why people aren't going to do it, but if so going back to the idea that we're in a fight for the soul of America, it's like, I want whatever's true, and I don't care how inconvenient that might be to power structures, but we do have to figure out how to actually get this into culture would be, I think, the strongest thing, because if we can't, it's always sobering to read the chat. If we can't get people to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. I understand, follow the physics. Like, how does this stuff work? So that we can get people into a position where they can get the education that will actually be high utility for them in the real world, so that we can get to the point where people aren't getting sucked into gangs and other bad places. The thing that I would add to that is, when I was back at Quest, I actually had parents work for me that were putting their kids in bathtubs to avoid stray bullets. So like, I know that thing is very real. And so getting crime solved as well, as much as you can, it is never going to be zero. And there is a point at which the solution becomes worse than the problem, for sure. But getting that under control as well, I think, is a huge thing. And then I don't think people understand how people are not going to invest in a neighborhood where crime is rampant. And I'll give you a story. This is a true story. Somebody that I know, love, and trust told me this. I still can't believe this is true. But there was either a Wendy's or a Burger King that was specifically where you went to practice your first armed robbery. And he was like, that was like a rite of passage for all of us. Like, everybody knew that was the one that you went to. And they had like plexiglass-like banks at a Wendy's or a Burger King, whatever it was. And I was like, that is wild. And he was like, you have to practice somewhere. And I was like, this is crazy. So getting to the point where you have kids that are being trained how to like go through the tutorial run of life's video game by robbing the local fast food restaurant is pretty crazy. And so you have a problem of you're going to end up with the food deserts, and you're going to end up with a dearth of places to go work and all of that. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you're looking at that neighborhood and you're like, yeah, no, if building here or owning the restaurant here means that I'm the tutorial for people to learn how to rob, like, no thanks.
I'm arguing in the chat right now with Built on the Rock Productions, who says that I want to treat the symptom and not the problem. And I think over militarizing a city is treating the symptom and not the problem, because poverty is a funnel. Crime is a funnel. I'll take that back. Crime is a funnel. There aren't many rich, privileged people who sleep in warm beds who say, okay, now I'm going to go rob somebody. Bankers, but I was
going to say,
but
they do it in a different way.
You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, if you are worried about carjacking and you're worried about this, okay, a young 17-year-old just carjacked me. If a young 17-year-old had to steal something from me, what happened to them when they were 7? I don't know. They're just a bad apple and we just have to lock them up. Cool. Then let's just close our eyes, and another 17 years, another one would pop up, and then another one. And they just think that
you have to do both, though.
They think that these people are just like falling from the sky.
Probably, and that's terrible and stupid, and they will forever be confused. And so this is where I'm like, man, I really want people to hear me. I probably have to change the language, but this is really how I feel. Give up on adults. Stop trying to re-educate adults, and recognize that instead of spending your entire life treating cancer, figure out why people get cancer in the first place and address that. And I'm perfectly willing to go with your policies before, during, after school, like, give these kids a place to be where they can be intellectually engaged, stimulated, be around people that care about their future. Like, all of that stuff sounds like a dope investment to me. And at the same time, if people are doing bad things, you've got to like nip that in the bud. Now, part of my vision of KIPP schools and charter schools is probably fantasy. So to be just full disclosure, I haven't done a deep enough dive. But the mental model that I have of these schools is every one of them that shows these incredible results. They're like, we hold kids to a standard. And I'm just saying, we need to hold people to a standard. Like there needs to be a standard, and people need to get kicked out of whatever that inner group is if they don't meet those things. And so this is exactly what I'm talking about. Once you get to somebody who's doing drugs on the street, yes, if they're not willing to seek treatment, if they're not willing to leave a certain area, because we don't let people just do that wherever the hell they want, then yeah, like what are you going to do? At some point, you have to use minimum force required would be my vote. But you have to do something. Like if the person's like, I'm not leaving, I'm going to disrupt this business, I'm going to build an encampment in this neighborhood. No, like hard pass. So that kind of stuff is the end result of an already broken system. And I'm saying you have to do both. If you don't address the pipeline that feeds that, you're forever just trying to cure cancer once it's already taken root and metastasized, and that's stupid. And then at the same time, you have to deal with the fact that you have people with metastasized cancer. And so you've got to like address it. You can't just be like, well, but it sucks that they have metastasized cancer. Yes, it does, but you can't just let them run rampant with that, which then causes part of the very problem that you're trying to address, which is increased geographically entrenched poverty, because no one's going to invest in that neighborhood.
But it's DC. People invest in DC. That's why this is like funny to me, because DC, my brother lived in DC. I've spent many nights in DC. I spent the whole summer in DC. I spent half of COVID in DC. DC is a very interesting place for this reason, because you have people in DC who will walk their dogs at 10 o'clock at night, whistling with AirPods in, and have no worries in the world. And then you go 3 blocks over, and that's the worst place you can do that exact same thing. So it's one of those things where there already are police in certain areas that make their presence known. And there's police in any areas that they just don't go over there.
Do you think that there's any difference in crime in areas where police are making their presence known versus areas where they don't go?
That's one of the fundamental building blocks that stops crime, is having police presence there. But when people in certain areas call the police and they don't show up, then it becomes, okay, well, if I'm trying to stop the thing that's happening, by no means am I abolish the police person, because I feel like that's where this line of questioning is going.
Oh, that wasn't even on my radar.
Okay.
I'm going the exact opposite direction. I'm trying to map why you, like, if you were saying, look, I think we need more police in DC. We just don't want it to be federal troops, because the militaristic vibe they give off is just the wrong vibe. It's going to do a weird thing to the psychology of the people who live there, and they're going to feel like they're under occupation rather than, hey, I'm a friendly neighborhood police officer. I'm entrenched in the community. I'm one of you guys, and I want to make sure that we're all safe. And so for that reason, I think right idea in terms of increasing police presence, wrong execution. If you were saying that, I'd be like, cool, I totally get that. That isn't what I hear. Maybe that is what you're saying, but that isn't what I hear. What I hear is that Trump is just flooding the zone with militarized police. There are already a bunch of police in certain neighborhoods and not in other neighborhoods. And so it makes me think like you're either stopping what would work, which is more police, or you're saying they're just going to put more police into the areas that already have them because this is a poverty problem and they don't want to be anywhere near the poor people. They just want to better protect the rich people. That's me guessing, but like I'm trying to get to, explain the head bob? I don't.
You're not too far off. Hey, man. Again, Trump is going to get a clean city for his UFC event next year.
But don't we want a clean city forever? Like,
ballroom is going to be great. It's going to be huge. It's going to be awesome.
All right, we got Drew doing a Trump impersonation. We should probably move on. We spent a lot of time on this, but there it is, man. Boy, we all look at the same thing and we see very different things. That is the world that we live in. All right, Esoteric Dichotomy, at a minimum, has a super chat. I don't know if that's the only one, but hit us with it, Mace.
Hey, Tom, would you ever consider investing in construction, houses, power plants, railroad projects, mines, etc.? Probably annoying to deal with government regulation, but would you ever consider putting money into it? Creates jobs.
I would absolutely never consider doing that. And the reason is you should only invest in things that you understand. I do not understand those things. And so I am likely to lose a ton of money. All of us, unfortunately, this is one of the things that distresses me the most deeply in life. You can learn anything you want, but not everything. And so the things that I have decided that I'm going to learn about are media, economics, gaming, business. Like that's my small bucket of things that I'm ever going to spend my time on. And so it just is what it is. So somebody else is going to have to do those things. I get pitched all the time for me to invest in stuff. And I'm just like, let's say it'll sound like an incredible idea. And I'll be like a little bit tempted. And then I'll start doing even a tiny bit of research. And I realize, oh, this guy that's pitching me, like he's not even at the cutting edge of what's going on. And like, what are the odds that in the first hour of research, I actually found the person that's actually at the cutting edge? Probably zero. So now I've just found somebody that's like middle of the pack that's already way ahead of this guy that's pitching me. So I'm just like, every time I get tempted by something, I'm like, bro, there are so many people out there trying to exploit every niche to build something rad, to make a ton of money. It's like, you've really got to figure out what is the small like number of things that I'm going to become truly world-class at and then go all in. As you guys well know, the last 5 years at Impact Theory have been me going, we do less things, not more things. I was on the more bandwagon for a lot because I am so emotionally distressed by the fact you can be anything you want, but not everything. That really bothers me in a way that's pathological. So yeah, no, I won't be investing.
That kind of brings me up because I wanted to highlight this before we pivot. Before we pivot, we're coming to Elon Musk and Sam Altman in the AI feud that just won't go away. With Trump auditing the Smithsonian, how do we balance the victors go the spoils,
Yep, to the victors go the spoils.
Yeah, the history books is written by the winners. How do we balance that with talking about history in an honest way so that way we don't make the same results?
I think people have to fully understand that the odds that you get to the quote unquote truth are zero. We are not equipped to understand what is true.
Even in hindsight, you don't think we can reach
the vast majority of everything
Okay.
is perception. You can say this thing happened, but what we're really talking about is what does the thing that happened mean? And so once you get into what does the thing that happened mean, now it's like all hell breaks loose. I mean, take what's going on with Trump right now. It's like people look at it and go, well, he's doing it because he's a fascist dictator wannabe. Is that true? It might be true, but it might also be entirely false. But people are going to battle at the level of what it means. And so when you're going back and looking in history and you understand that humans are meaning-making machines, we're looking for what does it mean? We're trying to make sense of the world by understanding a rustle in the bush means I'm about to get killed, or it means like that there's a food opportunity. Like, what does it mean? So it's all about meaning. And so that war will never stop raging. And the person who wins is going to necessarily control the narrative. Okay, I teach entrepreneurship. Impact Theory University, sign up today. And one of the things that I'm always trying to get entrepreneurs to understand is momentum. So there's this concept in sailing called velocity made good. And it's this idea that the wind is going to blow the way the wind is going to blow. So call that energy. But you've got to get the energy pushing you in the direction you actually want to go in. It is the single hardest thing to do as an entrepreneur. And so people will often confuse speed for momentum. Momentum, you could say, is high utility speed. So it's a whole bunch of people, not just moving fast, but moving in a singular direction fast. That's like useful momentum. That's velocity made good. And to get your nation behind you, you need velocity made good. You need everybody to believe the same thing. The very reason America is in so much danger right now is that we are pulling against each other as hard as two halves can pull against each other. And so it stops us from getting any momentum. China does not have that problem. China is gaining momentum. And so you will lose to the nation that has more momentum than you. And because we have done a terrible job of controlling the narrative of what it means to be American, and we're focusing people on things that are destructive to cohesive national identity, even if they're true. Even if they're true, if you tell your people a narrative that they then internalize, which is destructive to cohesive identity, your country will get overrun by countries that have cohesive identity, that believe in themselves, that think that they're right. Dude, people need to start reading what Xi Jinping is feeding his nation. I'm super jealous. It is, China is heaven mandated to rule the world. It's like, we are the best. We had a brutal 100 years of humiliation. It's never going to happen again, which, by the way, please everybody lock into your soul this idea of 100 years. When a country falls, it falls for 100 years, man. So we are on the precipice of falling, which is why I really want people to understand Argentina fell for 100 years. China fell for 100 years. Like when you go down hard. So be very careful about allowing yourself to fall. So anyway, we need a national narrative that is empowering, that brings us together, that doesn't pull us apart. And we're going to have to decide what that is. And right now, the narrative that's gaining steam on the left is that we are racist colonialists who have stolen the country, that they are illegitimate. And that notion, even if you manage to extract yourself out of that as you grow up and start looking at the physics of, say, economics, even if you extract yourself out of it, you're still in that frame of reference. Like you start telling yourself a story of, I'm overcoming that. So for instance, growing up, I had no sense that we were overcoming being the bad people. I had the sense that we, whatever that means, we had ended slavery. I didn't even know about the British doing it long before us. So I was eating a cocktail of, we ended slavery, that I got to be a part of what Martin Luther King did, that it was like, we've all come together, that we've built the greatest nation in the world, that we've used capitalism to pull people out of poverty. Like, I didn't have to get over like we had done all these bad things. I was just fed a steady diet of Americans are amazing. We've done all this amazing stuff around the world. We're helping free people. We're bringing democracy. Now, look, a ton of that was a lie, but it was a really empowering, useful, let's say it was framed. It was very empowering, useful framing in terms of getting me to love my country, to love my fellow Americans, to like want to point in a useful, productive direction. We've lost that.
This reminds me of a story. It was Christmas Eve. We used to go to church every Christmas Eve, and then like 12 a.m. we would open our gifts. So I pile in the car, my older brother, older sister. I'm sitting in the middle, mom and dad in the front seat, and we're on our way. And I'm like, I'm so excited to get back and open my gifts. I can't wait to see what Santa bought down the tree. I'm so excited. I hope it's a this. I hope it's a that. And then my mom was like, there is no Santa. I bought all your gifts. And in that moment, I think I was in like
real cold.
Yeah, I think I was in like second or third grade. It was like, but then I look back at it and I'm like, okay, that showed me then, okay, my mom and dad work hard for me. I shouldn't, like, this isn't just magic that there's gifts under these trees, that it takes effort, it takes sacrifice, all these things to give me these things. And that, although it wasn't the lie that a lot of other kids had, it still kind of turned me to it gave me perspective and an appreciation for them.
Yep.
Is there a sober way we can actually do that with America, or is it just we're at the level of the tooth fairy now? We just have to say, hey, America is good. There can't be any other narratives because of how fractal we are right now. Let's just all think we're good. We have no bad history. We're doing the best we can, and let's just go forward like that. Or can we be honest and say America had some bumps, but we overcame them, and then now look how more resilient we are, or look how hard we worked to get to this point. Like, is there some way where we can kind of have that truth and get a positive realization, or do you think we can't even handle that?
No, I think it needs to be as like fact accurate as humanly possible, because then the narrative is strong. So if your parents may not even be aware of, but I really hope they would never frame it like this. We know that our kid is going to have a ton of social pressure on them when they get to school to be like, what cool things did you get? And so, yes, we love them and we want to see them happy, but we also know that that dopamine rush is going to wear off. So we're probably going to give them a little bit more than we otherwise would, because we know that they're going to go back and tell their friends, well, I got all this dope shit. And we don't want them to be made fun of and teased. That's not going to be part that they tell you. It's going to be, we love you so much and we work so hard for you so you can have a better life. And this gives us a chance to like celebrate as a family, to celebrate Jesus. I don't know if that's what you did, but like, I know for a lot of people, that's it. And so it's like, that's a way better framing. And yes, they're leaving out some things that are true, but they're just not super useful. And even like when you're telling yourself the narrative, it's like, I'm just not going to emphasize my thinking around those things. They are true, but I'm not going to emphasize my thinking around those things. And they impact the way your brain wires and all that. Like, there are real consequences. Anyway, you want it to be as grounded in truth as possible. Your parents really do love you. They really do work hard for you. They really do want you to have a great life. They really do like to see you happy and it makes them happy to see you happy. So it's like, that's the narrative that you want to tell for sure. And I think that America has to do exactly that. Like, we've got to find the things that are true. So for instance, you can look at Lincoln and you can say Lincoln was perfectly happy to win the Civil War without freeing the slaves. But he also died in order to free the slaves. So it's like, which one of those versions of the story do you tell? And you can certainly say, like, I would probably age gate this stuff. And I would say in the beginning, it's like America fought to free the slaves and we paid, blood, toil, tears, sacrifice, because it was so just absolutely abhorrent. Even though I'm not religious, I'm all for people giving like a religious spin on this, that all men are created equal, all humans are created equal in the eyes of the Lord. Like, that's just a great thing to internalize, that everybody's sacred. I love that. So all of that stuff, I think, is where you start. Now, as you get older and you're doing like a civics class, then it's like, hey, let me give you the reality that politics are complicated. And if you can't get your people behind you and you get voted out of office, you're not going to be able to make any change. So when you really start learning about how politics works, boys and girls, you're going to be a little bit grossed out, because you're going to see everything is compromised. You're going to see that people are willing to give up on something that matters tremendously. The founding fathers were like, fuck, we're never, like, there were founding fathers that were wildly opposed to slavery while having sex with their slaves. So it's like, the fuck? So all of that stuff is real. And at the same time, they actually did create a system that, as it played out, set people up psychologically to say, I'm willing to fight and die to end slavery. Mm-hmm. So it's like, but at the same time, they were also part of the reason that they did that. The average fighter wouldn't have been aware of this, but part of the reason that Lincoln did that was he understood that the European powers were trying to pull America apart so that we wouldn't be as economically strong. And he realized, if I can, him being Lincoln, if I can make this a moral crusade, then we'll be able to make it so they'll only fund one side of it. Absolutely brilliant strategic plan. But by the way, it plays into the fact that British ended the slave trade earlier than anybody, and that you could actually make that moral appeal. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, that's fantastic. And let's look at that people were willing to be like, oh, damn, like, even though it's in my economic best interest to get Americans to pull apart, slavery really is that gross. So it's like, how do you tell that story? That's going to matter. So we need a narrative that is both true and uplifting.
Remember the historic burning of the library in Alexandria?
Yeah,
that's it, right? Do you ever wonder, like, what lost history might have been in there?
Oh, yes.
And there could have been things that, like, defeated the whole, like, narrative that we run with now and things like that. Like,
well, if nothing else, I look at that and I go, you look at some of the stuff around like the pyramids, some of the temples in Turkey, where it's like they moved stones in ways we wouldn't know how to move stones today. So it's like, it's wild. And so there are clearly things that have gotten lost. I do love like the panspermia of it all, or was there at least civilizations that were lost when the theory goes that there was like all this water, like an ocean's worth of water that was trapped up at a high elevation, and then finally the ice melted enough that in just like essentially one moment that entire ocean flooded down. And as somebody grew up in Washington State, you see all the evidence of that water rushing through. So like the thought that there really was like this cataclysmic flood that wiped out God knows what kind of ancient, so it's not like they were more technologically advanced than us, civilization. But that kind of stuff is dope. And I can only imagine what kind of wisdom would be lost in a fire like that.
Yeah. I'm on the back of the Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes debate and backlash and Tucker Carlson of it all. And one point that I can't even believe I'm saying this, like I had to agree with Candace, is that's my one beef when a lot of people use the historical IQ argument a lot. When people are like, well, historically, this racial group is smarter than this racial group because of X, Y, Z. And then her point was, I think in 100 years, we're going to go to Gaza and Palestine and be like, well, Palestinians aren't as smart as Jewish people because of X, Y, Z, not like, and sweep under the rug that there was a whole war, we got decimated, their location was bombed. So it's like, well, Palestinians never made any aqueducts, so they never invented anything cool. But it was like, yeah, they probably did have some inventions if they weren't getting bombed. So it's that like lost history of it all that kind of makes me feel, while I'm okay with us giving America a shared narrative, I'm also hyper sober that America's narrative isn't, like, I don't have that full context of America's narrative. So by no means do I think I know the truth and they're hiding it. I just think that we need to kind of evolve out of look at what happened in 1960, 1776, and then those are the only 3 dates we need to talk about. Mm-hmm. But I think that we can learn the truth and be empowering. It doesn't necessarily have to be a condemnation on everybody's a racist, everybody's a homophobe, everybody's an Islamophobe, things like that.
What's going to be interesting for me is that in the era of massive volume and velocity of information, you're not going to have an option. Everybody's going to say what they think. Everybody's going to give their perspective. Everybody's going to pitch it as if their perspective is true. That just is the way that it's going to be. And then people are going to have to put together the narrative that they're going to push. And you're going to see this constant back and forth for people wanting to isolate their kids from a certain level of knowledge, that they don't want the government indoctrinating their kids because they want to do it themselves, which I do think is the right answer. But nonetheless, they're going to be indoctrinating their kids in their value system. I've said a gazillion times on the show that the next 10 years are going to be about a collision of values. It's going to play out in Europe first, and it is the world of Islam colliding with the world of Christianity. We are going to live through that. It is going to get wild, and it is a values collision. Let there be no mistake. People are going to confuse it for race. It is not about race. It is about values, but values matter. People will fight to the death over values. So buckle up, man. Like, it's going to happen. So in a world where no one gets to control the narrative anymore, what does that look like? And at what point do people go, no, I do want to control the narrative? Yeah. And so that's the thing that I worry about the most, because listen, I try to always know the best argument against my own arguments, and the best argument against my arguments economically is China. And China's done some absolutely miraculous stuff. And you can sum China up from a narrative control perspective as, bitch, sit down and shut up, or I will re-educate you all the way to death. So we're going to have to decide if we care, if narrative control has so much utility and non-controlled narrative is so dangerous and so divisive that we really do have to crush it down. We're going to answer that question. That one probably won't get answered in the next 10 years, but it's going to be answered in the next 20 or 30 years. That's for sure. So we'll see. And then it's always possible that AI just comes in and lies to us because it realizes, yeah, you guys can't fucking deal with the truth. So I'm just going to give you a nice simplified version. I saw somebody criticizing me. Tom's strategy equals over complicate everything. I am merely inviting you into how things actually work.
Chat says, you're so wrong. It's going to be rich versus poor before that.
It's already rich versus poor. And there is no, I have carpal tunnel syndrome from banging that drum. So I will take exactly zero criticism. Fuck you, whoever said that. That's what it is.
So, yeah, you really feel. Okay. Because then where does like censorship and debanking and all these things fall from it? Because I was surprised. Again, I'm doing research, guys. I'm not just down this rabbit hole. But like, Nick is still debanked. He still can't get a PayPal account. He still can't get a major checking account. He's on X, but he's still banned from YouTube and all these other platforms. And it's like, if we are censoring, I don't know. I feel like on one hand, we talk about how important free speech is, but then on the other hand, we're saying, yeah, but
dude,
we got to lie a little bit. And we can't listen to these people because they're going to mess us, they're going to make us like not each other. But free speech is definitely important. And so,
I don't think people think free speech is important anymore. There is certainly a subset. I think it's important.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's important to the point where people should be able to say that they think I am totally wrong, that I should never be listened to, that I'm a bad person. Like, oh, yep, go for it. As long as they're not inciting violence, I'm totally here for the things that the Supreme Court has already passed. But free speech is allowing people to say things that you despise. I think Mamdani is going to irreparably damage America. I think the very people he's trying to help, he is going to hurt brutally. He should still be allowed to say what he thinks is true. So, I mean, he should still be allowed to lie, quite frankly. So he should be allowed to say, anything that the Supreme Court has not already drawn a red line around. Yep. And even though I think it is actually dangerous and it will actually hurt people, he should still be able to say it. So, but from the free speech perspective, like when you have John Kerry saying that freedom, the First Amendment is the buzzsaw that like the opposition to, God, how did he phrase it? It was like basically people will put forward, they will use the First Amendment to stop our agenda to get people to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, what the fuck, man? I do not respect anybody who has that level of confidence in themselves that they're either they're so confident that they're right that they believe the whole world should listen to them. I don't have respect for that person. And then the person who is so fragile in their beliefs that they're like, I don't want to be challenged. I don't even do that as a CEO. So it's like, challenge me, go for it. Yeah, I am blind to things. I am aware of that. So yeah, both of those get a hard pass from me.
I want your reaction to this trailer. So in my research, they retweeted an AI generated Studio Ghibli style trailer for his show, and how he views himself is what gives me this like shared narrative. That's where I'm seeing the overlap, and I definitely want your reaction on this.
You just interviewed Nick Fuentes.
I did.
Or had a conversation with him. What did you think of that? What do you think of him?
This is the way they're putting this together.
My experience with Nick Fuentes is that he's a terrible person and a terrible human being.
But he is clearly part of a campaign to discredit non-crazy right voices.
I can confirm he's dishonest.
This child, this weird little gay kid in his basement in Chicago, young white men who've been totally cut out of our economy. I mean, they really are the victims, and they're desperate, and no one speaks for them. So they go to Fuentes because he's like incredibly articulate, and they think he's our leader. But in one of the saddest ironies of all, like he's acting against your interests, actually.
This is wild.
But then when it comes to me, I'm one of the real disaffected white people. You want to talk about me and them? I am them. He says Nick Fuentes is leading all of the disaffected young white men. I am a disaffected young white man. I was a precocious, intelligent, young white college student who went to Boston University, who was pro-Trump and red-pilled by Trump and animated by Trump's message of America first. And I asked questions about Israel, and I was punished for it. I did it years before Tucker Carlson started talking about Israel last year. And I sacrificed, and I was targeted by the ADL, by the SPLC, by the federal government.
Like this kid was like on the enemies list of, was it Brennan? He was on somebody's enemies list, and I was like, damn.
The do not fly list. Again, he's 26, and he already got his account frozen. He's on a watch list.
Yeah, he would have been like in his early 20s. Mm-hmm. So all that stuff is super rough, and this kid is obviously being put through a fire that is going to harden him, so be careful. But for somebody of my age, like every word out of his mouth like hits me like a tin ear. It's just, it's so focused on race. I really hate it. So look, is he disaffected? Yes. Has he been gone after? Yes. Does he say outrageous shit? Yes. Does he say things that I would expect people to attack him for? Yes. Do I think it is legitimately sinister that the government will secretly maneuver against you? Yes. Do I think it is sinister that you can be debanked? Yes. Like both are true. Like, hey, look, if you get in front of a mic and you say some shit, then you can expect people to clap back. Brutus Lugo, I'm looking at you. And it's like, yeah, if that bothers you, you're going to have to back off. But when they come at you and they're debanking you and they're like making it hard for you to live, that is sinister, man. And so like, it's hard enough to be whatever he was, 21, 22, full stop. Just to be 21 or 22 is hard. And then on top of that, to like make it so that you can't like earn a living, to make you so that you can't have a bank account. Like, look, he's going to say things that are going to make him a social pariah. That's on him. But like, let the guy like at least still be playing the same game. You can't nerf him unfairly. Like that to me is like way out of pocket. So I think we as a nation need to really get on board with, you've got to let people have bad ideas. You've got to let people express those bad ideas, and you can't take infrastructure away from them.
Do you think he should be, I hate the word platformed, but do you think that is like because I feel like out of cancel culture, he's one of like the 3 people that are still canceled type thing. Where a lot of people are like, yeah, okay, we cancel them, but we soft launched them back.
The whole platforming thing, I don't really get. So I think the hardest question anybody can answer is, would you platform Adolf Hitler? God, what's my short answer? Would I actually interview? I wouldn't interview Adolf Hitler, but I would feel like I was being unprincipled. And so it's just me being like, I don't want to sit down across from him. I don't want that smoke. I don't think that I'm good enough to change his mind. But like, if somebody had him on, would I watch the shit out of the interview? Yes. And would I want the most gangster, savage mind in the world to like go up against this guy? Yes. So I don't have a beef with platforming, but I get why people are like, with the whole Nelk boys, like that whole thing was like, were you guys the ones to interview Bibi Netanyahu? Probably not, but whatever, man. Like, let him talk. When people talk, they cannot help but expose themselves. Even if I know that he's just spinning all the time, I still want to see it. I still want to see the ideas be challenged. So to have this like blanket, don't talk to somebody policy is probably a bad idea. But to want like the most gangster of gangster people to go up against, like even just from an intellectual blood sport perspective, let's go. Trump doing, or world leaders. I don't mean it specifically as Trump, but like your president going up, televise that shit. Let me see it. Yeah, I'm all for that. So do or don't platform somebody feels like the wrong sort of moralizing.
Pookie said if you would interview Mao, you would interview Hitler.
Ooh, would I interview Mao? I don't know if I could stop myself from interviewing Mao. That's interesting.
That Mao says it all.
That's so weird. I don't even understand myself. So I'll have to reflect on why I would feel so compelled to sit down with Mao. Maybe because I think I better understand his arguments. I've spent a lot more time learning about Mao. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I'd have to really think about that.
All right. Well, Elon and Sam are going to have a lot to think about because this is the beef that will not go away.
Would you interview Satan? I don't think Satan exists.
Just hear him out.
But like, hey, we're trying to like get somewhere. It's not about hearing them out. It's about like, this is in the case of world leaders, it's about, this is somebody that actually has sway on the real world. And do you want to hear what they have to say? Do you want to see their ideas explored from different angles? Yes. I get why people who hate a given world leader seeing it explored in a way that isn't combative. That just isn't how I read the room. Like, I'm perfectly happy, like, whoever, like, just give me the footage. I need to see how this person is thinking, because I'm telling you, even if like it's just the tone that Bibi Netanyahu uses in a certain answer about whether he likes Burger King or whatever it was. I haven't seen the thing. I've seen a couple clips, but I still think I would like the right to see that information. Like, I'll take as much of world leaders talking as I can get my hands on, especially like Xi Jinping. Oh my God. Like, even if it's just unrelenting propaganda, I still want to have access to it. So I'm certainly not going to tell people that they can't have access to it. So if there are pro Xi Jinping people that are like, yo, like, I'm here for concentration camps, let's go, I still want to hear that interview. So anyway, I think I look at this very differently than the average person.
What do you say to interviewing someone you think is evil is going to spread their evil? Like, you're giving them a platform.
Yeah, I'm trying to be very clear on this. I still want to hear what they have to say, because I cannot challenge their ideas, defeat their ideas if I don't understand their ideas. And because I have the operating belief that when people speak, they cannot help but reveal themselves. Now, I get it. They also will spin propaganda 100%, and they might convert other people, but I'm not worried about that. I don't think the effective strategy is to keep ideas in the dark. I think the effective strategy is to drag it into the light and let the whole world, there are going to be incredible thinkers that will go in and address those points. And now we can get just a universe of incredible thinkers going in and saying, okay, I understand this part really well. Here's my take on that. The next person, I understand this part really well. Here's my take on that. But if you're constantly trying to hide it, I don't think it works. First of all, world leaders today are going to have a platform. So I wouldn't be weird about that. So yeah, I don't share the moral repugnancy that other people have for evil people saying words. It's like, if evil people are doing evil things, I want them to say as many words as they can so I can figure out what's actually happening. And I do think that that gives it oxygen and it flares, but then it allows you to actually defeat the idea. Because man, in today's world, like, people are going to go ham. I mean, even just look at the Nelk boys. Like, the response has been Swift. Now I'm in Sam Harris territory. I don't quite know what you mean by that.
Who should or should not get a platform?
Yeah, if that was aimed at me, though, I'm saying let him talk.
All right. Elon has been going through it because XAI is not getting any Apple Store love. He tweeted, Apple is behaving in a manner that makes it impossible for any AI company besides OpenAI to reach #1 in the Apple Store, which is unequivocally antitrust violation. XAI will take immediate legal action. He then got a community noted that DeepSeek hit #1 in January, Perplexity hit #1 in July, and both of those things happened before the OpenAI Apple partnership. Sam Altman retweeted, this is a remarkable claim given what I heard alleged that Elon does to manipulate X to benefit himself and his own companies and harms his competitors and people he doesn't like. After this, it just kind of spins into like tit for tat pettiness.
Oh, no, you got to read the one where he calls him a liar. He's like, you're dumb bullshit. You're a liar. Scroll back up.
Elon, you got
yeah.
You got 3 million in your bullshit post, you liar. Far more than I received on many of mine, despite me having 50 times your follower account. Will you sign an affidavit that you have never directed changes to the X algorithm in a way that hurt your competitors and helped your own companies? I will apologize if so.
Oh, man. I hate that I love this as much as
Still waiting
I
for a
love
response from Elon on that one.
Yeah. Good luck. I didn't see that reply. What do you mean? Yeah, look, this is, we live in this world. The most public, the most successful people in the world are just talking online, like all the time. And they cannot help but say some shit that I think the rest of us are like, God damn, that was not the one to tweet. But hey, it is what it is. It is fascinating. I have to say, even though the death of narrative control has consequences, I prefer this world. I am not a big fan of elites being able to control the narrative, which literally all of human history they were able to do until social media. Social media is a double-edged sword. There are definitely downsides. But yeah, I like it. I want to see more people. I want to see the things that the weird shit they get mired in that ends up like bringing them down. Yeah. It's interesting, like really deciding that I was going to step in front of a camera. I sometimes, because I grew up in the old era where you could really cultivate a persona and you could put the persona out there. And I've like completely just traded that. Like I could have just been the guy, like sells a company for $1 billion. Oh my God. Like there were years, man, before like social really like sped up its steam. And in phase 1, as I call it, of my YouTube career, I was giving people a persona. It was real. Like you were encountering a real part of my personality, but it was a very narrow slice of my personality. And, oh man, people come up to me at airports, give me hugs. Oh man, you changed my life. Thank you so much. What you've done is so incredible. Like praise. Now it is a very different story. So, but it's far more interesting to me. It's far more interesting, one, because it forces me to figure out what I actually think, which is very interesting. And then 2, because I'm so into like research and mapping cause and effect and all of that. And like, it does make me feel a bit like a warrior, like fighting for the soul of America. I fucking like that. Like I'm here for that.
You've been saying that a lot.
It's self-propaganda, but I love it. It really makes me feel engaged. And the thing is, because it's born of something real, the deeper I go into the economics, I'm like, oh my God, like all these guys screaming, like Mamdani is screaming about real things. Hassan is screaming about real things. They have the wrong solution, but Gary's economics, they're screaming about a real thing. Like there's a real problem. So anyway, I think through being able to talk through all these problems, no one being able to silence people, that we actually can get to a place where we can move forward well. It's going to be very messy. But anyway, I find that far more interesting than all the controlled narratives and all the controlled personas. It's like, yeah, put people on. We're about to see, because more and more people, Mr. Beast just did it. He's going to start live streaming. How often? I don't know. But more and more people, I'm telling you, live streaming is the future. More and more people are going to do it. And people are really going to be like, yo, if we get to see you, I mean, you get to see me speak extemporaneously 6 hours a week. I'm trying to get it to 9 hours a week. Bro, like that's a real thing. Like if you are talking about like the hottest button issues, 6, 9, take someone like Hassan, Jesus, I can't imagine, or Destiny, or Asmongold. I mean, these guys are on like 5 to 7 days a week, like 6 to 8 hours a day. It's insanity. So we're about to find out a whole group of people what they actually think. It's going to be wild.
Ricky Martinez, I don't understand why Tom doesn't go into healthcare and health more. You had like a health
theory.
Yeah, health. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We did the show, but I'm assuming they mean, so from a monetary perspective, If I had done another health company, oh my God, I would have made even more money. But the part of my story that no matter how many times I say it, I don't think people really believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 12 years old. I have a realization in my neighbor's backyard. I'm filming something with a camcorder, which when I was 12 was a long time ago. Camcorders were super rare. And I had the very bizarre and good fortune of my dad's company buying a camcorder, using it for virtually nothing, telling the employees they could take it home. No one knew what to do with it. So my dad was like, oh, well, I'll bring it home and see if my kid likes it. And so my dad would every weekend bring this camcorder home and I would go film things. So I'm 12, I'm in the backyard and I have this realization. I want to tell stories for the rest of my life. Like that's my shtick. Go to film school, do very well in film school, by the way, and graduate from film school. And this is the late 90s. I have no idea how to break into the industry. And I realize like I'm going to give you guys the mythology version of the story. This like jumbles the timeline and all this, but it makes the like message so clear. But one day when somebody does the breakdown, they're like, he never tells the like true way this plays out. I'm about to jumble the timeline to make it like really concrete. So graduate, have no idea how to break into the industry. Think I'm going to get the 3-picture deal. I do not. I'm teaching film, loving that, but like still just have no sense of how I'm ever going to make this work. I end up writing a screenplay. It gets turned into a feature film starring Michael Madsen, the guy from
R.I.P.
Quentin Tarantino's films.
Reservoir Dogs.
Yep. And I think, oh my God, this is going to be my shot. The movie comes out so bad that I secretly pray that I could remove my name from it. Like just an absolute abomination. It is a uniquely terrible film. And meet these two very successful entrepreneurs. They say, you're coming to the world with your hand out. If you want to control the art, you have to control the resources. And so I'm like, okay, I need to get into business and get rich. And that puts me on a very long journey. Now, technically, that actually comes after I've started going down that path. But anyway, you get the idea of how this is all sort of playing out in my mind. So I realized from the time I was little, I always believed I was going to become rich. But I was like, that's actually true. So I need to get rich and then I can fund my own films. And so I go on what I think is going to be an 18-month journey to get rich. It ends up being a 15-year journey, but it does end up working. And so then I launch my studio. Literally, my last day in the health and nutrition space is a Monday, and I start Impact Theory Tuesday. Because it was like, people are like, why don't you take a break? You're so rich now, you can do whatever you want. And I'm just like, yeah, the thing that I want is to do the studio. I thought I was only going to walk away from it for 18 months. I walked away for 15 years. So I'm like, I really want to get back to it. So the thing that, and unfortunately, storytelling changed so radically in the intervening 15 years. If I knew that was going to happen, I would have just gone straight into film. But I just didn't understand life well enough. I would not, it wouldn't have played out the way that it did. So anyway, fine, whatever. I learned the lessons, but I'm really trying to tell stories. And so I am beyond obsessed with video games. Even if it makes me less money, this was like the journey I've tried to be on since I was 12. So the fact that I've ended in media should surprise no one. What's that?
They want to know what movie you wrote.
Eric, can you toss me
it
water?
is so easy to find, but I will never make it easier by telling people.
Fair enough.
You could Google his name.
And I'm just telling you right now, you're going to regret if you watch it. You're going to be like, this is terrible.
And Tom wrote that.
It's terrible. Yeah, unfortunately true. But I will say, in my defense, what you see on screen is not what I wrote. But alas, it is what it is.
And your wife's in the chat and added that you met her while teaching.
I did. This is all very true. She was my student. It is a Me Too story in another era. But
Wow.
I do love
Wow.
it. No, for real.
Outed yourself.
She was my student, kids. So now she was 21 years old, but nonetheless, she was my student. So there it is.
Apologies to Dara Tice, looking directly into the camera. I'm sorry. They said, please don't tell the Santa isn't real story again, Drew. My kids are in the room when I watch times and they came out without warning.
Oh,
My bad, bro.
That's interesting.
Sorry.
I never would have thought that we had to give people warning.
I was talking about Russian Santa because Putin is a bad boy and that's why he got cold. America's Santa is good though.
He's making it worse.
Trump made it great again. So America's Santa.
There was like, bro,
we're good. It's
Oh,
the
God.
Santa. That's the problematic one. He got deported. He's over the border now.
Oh, I didn't say that I also played a SWAT guy in the movie. Yes, that's actually true.
I didn't know you were actually in the movie.
I don't say anything. I'm just like SWAT guy 72 in the background.
Intimidating muscle.
Exactly. It was fun. But yeah.
Nice.
No.
Okay, let's get back to petty billionaires. There's something.
There's one thing on this too that I wanted to bring up, which
Yes,
is a
please.
lot of those spots in the App Store you have to pay for that featured spot. So like I don't know if this particular spot that it's not being featured is a paid spot. But
Well, there's a
if
lot of people now posting stuff where they're like, it really is hard to find X. So in fairness, it does seem weird that you would have to, it's like number one in so many countries all around the world. But for some reason here, like you're on page 12 and it still hasn't shown up. That's sus. And look,
it's
Apple,
not the number 12 app,
Yeah.
like, social media site. Yeah.
Apple has a history of like negotiating with people behind the scenes for either like make us your default like browser or whatever. And then they do like a services trade essentially. So I would be very unsurprised to find that Apple has some sort of services trade with OpenAI, but maybe not. Who knows?
But Tim Sweeney just went through this with Epic Games suing
Yes.
Apple. So Apple by no means is
They have a terrible reputation.
Yeah.
They are very predatory. So also, I mean, Elon creates some of his own problems. Like when you come out as hot as he came out against what's his face at Disney, it's like, one, if you're similarly minded to Disney as Tim Cook, and you look at that and you just go, I just don't like anything about that guy's attitude. Then all of a sudden it's like, you don't even have to like do things that expressly kneecap X to find ways to kneecap X. And by the way, I would also be equally unsurprised to find out that Elon was doing things that boosted his own like following. Now, in fairness to Elon, it really may have just been, because he publishes the algorithm, it really may have just been that all of the things that he set as a matter of policy were amazing for him. And he was perfectly willing to have to compete in that way, but he knew like this is always going to favor somebody with an account type like mine. But I don't know about you guys, but he's gone way down in visibility for me, way down in visibility. For like when he was in government, damn, like every third post on my feed was Elon. Now it's like, I'll see him a couple times a day, but he doesn't like dominate my feed. So I don't know if he changed something or if it's just that the things that get your tweets to like pump now that he's not in politics, they just don't pump as hard. I don't know. But that I wouldn't be surprised sort of in any direction. These guys are business gets dirty, man. Like really, like as a business guy, you eventually have to make a decision. Like, am I going to go down the like, I'm going to try to do all this political maneuvering behind the scenes, or are you just going to play the game? But like when I felt like at Quest, when the government they didn't even know we existed. So I'm not saying this was aimed at us, but they were doing stuff around fat, bad, sugar, fine that I was like, we're legitimately going to have to get lobbyists. Like this is crazy. And so even though I don't like to see money in politics, I don't love the idea of lobbyists, I was like, well, this is the game. So
one of my old companies, every executive level, which was like director level and above, I want to say it was like 0.5% of their check went into a lobbying fund. And it was just like, it was almost like an internal tax, which was like hilarious to me.
That's interesting.
But, yeah. But it was a Fortune 100 company. So they were very much on the whims of the government.
Yeah.
Going back to another Elon tweet, he talked about video games with Grok Imagine now making videos come to real life. Some people have kind of combined that with the vibe coding to kind of imagine what these 3D worlds would look like. And he tweeted, video games will be dynamically generated by Grok in the future.
This is so crazy.
And then you retweeted it that like you wanted to kind of see what the people thought. So how do you see this like happening? And especially as a game developer, it's kind of like you're trying to build a house, but under you, the ground is literally like transforming into something else. So like,
yeah, it's wild. So imagine that you've spent years building that house. You've gone through all the permitting, all that stuff. Like, oh my God, this has been hard, expensive, but you're building something beautiful. Hopefully, unlike anything anyone's ever seen. Like, oh my God, this is going to be incredible. And you also are watching a technologist who's like building this magical device that can print a house in an afternoon that is way bigger and more complex than the house that you've spent years building. And you look at it and you go, okay, like if it's going to be that cool, I can use it as well. So it's not like they're the only studio that has this. This is going to be accessible to anybody that, pays whatever the fee is. So you're like, okay, like I won't have to spend years. Like I can build more and more houses. I don't have to be like as all eggs in one basket as I am. you feel some kind of way about the fact that whatever you've spent is like in some number of years, like looking at where this actually becomes a game that you would play and want to play, you're 5 to 7 years away for sure. Like, because just making something where you can walk around and bump into things appropriately is not the same as having a game. If it was, we'd already be done. We would have been done a year ago. So it's all the things that you do to like make the dopamine loops, make it fun, give people goals, all that stuff. That's going to be way harder for them to get AI to be able to do in a modular way, such that you could go in and say, okay, I want to do this, but not this, and do this, and emphasize here, and a little louder on this sound effect here, which shocking things like that make a very big difference. And so like from that perspective, I've still got 5 to 7 years, maybe a little bit more, we'll see. So the real thing for me is as a player, or even as a creator, because like, why do I want to tell stories? There is something, I'm a hyper responder to story. So The Matrix, just, it means something to me. Like it's become a part of my mental scaffolding. The characters, if I see an image from The Matrix, like it really makes me feel something. There are stories from my childhood, they make me feel something. And I think that's gonna go away because games will be so fast. There'll be a Tinder effect where it's like you get bored 4 minutes into a game. You're like, who cares?
Swipe left.
It doesn't cost me anything. I'm just swipe left. I'm on to the next. And so just like that's had a pathological effect on relationships because there is no like, I've got to look past some of her flaws. I've got to work with her on some things. Our friend groups get together and there's like real connective tissue to like a marriage like Lisa and I, where it's like, man, there's so much, like I have incredible memories of members of her family. So forget the transformational force that she's been in my life. Her brother is arguably my best friend in the world. So it's like, you've got that and then her mom and her mom's wife, like they're my favorite people. So it's like all this echo of a stable relationship that you ride with through the years gives you all these other things. And so when you invest in a game, like I played Destiny for years. I've played Fortnite now for like a year. And so you like really get into it and you have memories, all that is gonna go away.
Having built a game in Unreal Engine, does that give you any specific advantages if everything's going toward AI being able to one-shot it?
I have to believe that Tim Sweeney is integrating AI as fast as humanly possible. And given that all this stuff will come out like bit by bit, then for sure, I would presume step number one is somebody, Tim Sweeney, needs to train AI to go, you've created a blueprint module, turn it into C++ instantaneously. Because we're migrating some stuff now to C++, like a 4-month project to do. I mean, it will have a huge impact on the speed of the game, but it's gonna take like 4 months. So it's like the thought of someone being like, take that, make C++, and it's like, here you go. Like that is intoxicating because that will save so much money and time.
Yeah. I'm curious about the future of it, but I had like a realization because I'm like learning like coding classes because vibe coding can only get you
What are you coding? What language are you learning?
I'm going into Expo so I can do mobile apps.
Expo.
It's this new, it's a new open source mobile that lets you code Android, Apple, and web all at once.
Let's go.
So it's
That's
one
dope.
platform you could push to 3.
Okay.
So when I realized that, I was like downloading, it's like, oh yeah, you'll need these like base layers. So you'll need to get like a Node.js file and you need to get like the Expo file themselves. And I'm realizing as I'm going to all these websites, downloading them, I'm like, somebody like created this and then just kind of gives it away for free.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when we talk about socialism, capitalism, or what the new tech supreme is, I'm starting to understand now why a lot of these tech bros are a bit more like, oh yeah, we're going to get past capitalism. We're not going to need money anymore. Because there are so many, just on a software coding perspective, so many free libraries, so many open source directories, so many things that are like, oh, you need a database, boom, it's already built. Oh, you need a calendar API, it's already built. So it's like 60% of the administrative things that you just need to kind of connect the dots in between your apps are already generated, made, and free for you. So I'm starting to kind of change the viewpoint from that perspective. Like, okay, yeah, maybe there is a post-capitalist world in the way that like, yeah, we could do all these things for really free. So here, we're just going to give it to you. Versus
I don't think people understand you're getting onto something so powerful that is tied to why capitalism actually works, I don't think people stop and go, why does capitalism work? People don't recognize they are the problem. So why aren't things cheaper? Because you won't work for less money. Once people get that, money is about getting people to do things. Oh, I get it. Like, you want to herd your sheep. You don't want to have to go fishing. You don't want to have to make the leather that I'm going to use on my farm. Like, I'm going to do my thing. You're going to specialize in your thing. But we're not always going to want to, like, how much lamb meat do I give you for a fishing rod? Like, nobody knows. And so you create this intermediary, which can be stored and used for anything that you want rather than having to barter all the time. So it's like, oh, money is just a way to incentivize people to do a thing, right? Because I'm going to pay you for the fruits of that labor. So people go, ooh, I can make money by doing this thing. So I'm going to go do this thing. But money is designed to get people to do a thing. Once you don't have to incentivize anybody to do a thing, you are by definition post-capitalist. Who the fuck cares about capitalism at that point? Not me. Like, even though I have played that game as hard as you can play that game, I don't have some innate need for that. What I have, the innate need that I have, is to be goal-oriented, to move towards something that matters, to feel like there's meaning and purpose to the things that I put my time and energy into. I need to encounter friction and overcome it. I need to make progress towards goals that are honorable. Like, those are the things that are hardwired into the human mind. Nothing you do will make that go away. That's why I think in a post-capitalist world, all of a sudden people are going to live largely in virtual worlds. Period, simple as. Or there will also be people that play the ultimate survival game, which is life. And you're going to be like, I know I don't need to do the following, but I'm going to move into some remote thing and see if I can survive. The number of people that are already starting to do that, because the modern world is so easy and it makes you feel this profound sense of dis-ease, is high. Once you can enter into a virtual world where it's like, oh, I can go slay dragons, do all this stuff, and still eat and blah, 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 like 1,000%. People are going to do it because it's hardwired into the human brain.
A good question from chat to calibrate. Tom, is pro post scarcity, yes or no?
Yes, of course. Let's go.
And then they followed up, but post scarcity is just a working form of socialism.
Oh my God. Okay.
Got him.
So
we got him, chat.
You guys are fucking hilarious. This is so funny. What is a good analogy? I don't have a good analogy, so I'm going to have to, unfortunately, right now, just attack this one at the level of facts. Okay, so why do I not like socialism? Because it doesn't work. If it worked, I'd be all for it. Why do I not like communism? Because it doesn't work. If it worked, I would be all for it. Now, to work, you have to understand what my goal is. My goal is human flourishing. Why don't communism and socialism lead to human flourishing? Because they are out of step with the evolutionarily placed algorithms that people have in their brain. So for communism to work, you have to be willing to kill people, because humans don't like to agree en masse. They have different ideas. They know something that you don't know, and they want you to acknowledge that. And so I will always use Mao as an example. Mao forced his people to plant crops regardless of geographic location, at the same crops at the same time. That's guaranteed not to work. Now, the farmers would know that. So you can imagine how mad they were that he was forcing them to do it, because they're like, this isn't going to work. People are going to starve. Now, Mao, I was talking earlier about momentums, getting a whole lot of people moving in the same direction at the same time. Mao goes, I need momentum. I know where I'm trying to get us to, and these guys are fucking up my momentum. And so the system I'm going to use to just completely violate the laws of human nature, which is like, we're trying to get to equal outcome. To do that, I just have to use force. I have to like smash people in the mouth and get them to do what I want. So we starved and killed just a whole bunch of people. And so finally people were like, I'm going to be silent. If you don't know the story of Saddam Hussein, look it up. Becomes president, I think 4 days later. He calls a bunch of people into the parliament, reads off like 62 names, whatever, and executes them. He executes 22 of them. But anyway, kills a bunch of people. Oh, and by the way, he makes other people in the party kill them. So he gives a gun to people to make sure that everybody's loyal. Was it Khrushchev? I don't remember which leader followed Stalin. I don't think it was Khrushchev, forgive me. But whoever it was that came into power after Stalin gets up to give his first speech, and somebody yells out, why didn't you say anything when Stalin was killing millions of people? And he whips around to the crowd, and he's like, who said that? And just silence. And he lets the silence linger. And then he goes, that's why I didn't say anything. Okay? Humans kill other humans to get them to do what they want. That's communism. That's socialism. It's just out of step with the way that the human mind works, where we're incentivized to make progress towards a goal. We want to work really hard, but we want to get the fruits of our labor. We have different levels of intellect, ability, drive, discipline, all of that. So there's always going to be wildly disparate outcomes. These things are extremely difficult to do. And so people will confuse, and this is the moment that we're living in now, people will confuse unequal opportunity, which is disgusting, with unequal outcomes, which is inevitable. So let's all focus on how do we make sure that everybody has the same opportunity. And here's something about Hassan Piker that I will say, at least from a words that he says perspective. He's like, I want equal opportunity. Cool. Now we can at least debate what's actually going to give people equal opportunity. Some things are going to work and some things aren't. And so I'm just saying one of the primary ways, I always teach this to entrepreneurs, is if you're trying to do something, ask, has anybody ever done this before me? Well, so look back at history and go see what can you learn from that person. You're rarely going to be able to copy it because that moment will have passed, but you're going to be able to identify principles. And so I'm just saying, look back in history and see what happens when you try to do socialism, communism. It doesn't work. If for the reasons that I just went through, the whole murder death thing. If you look at like the Nordic countries, right? Like people should be clapping back on me with like Nordic stuff. Like, why don't we do Nordic stuff? There's a whole reason, but like that's at least a good clapback, especially if you're going to talk about Norway. Like, yo, like they're actually doing some amazing shit. If you want to clap back on my theories, you're going to say, well, China pulled more people out of poverty faster than anybody else, right? I've got all my arguments, happy to make them. But it's like, this isn't me going, I have some philosophical reason not to like communism, socialism. If they led to human flourishing, I would be all for them. So I think, in very simple terms, that AI is going to drive the cost of energy effectively to zero. Once you drive the cost of energy to zero and robotics exist, now you have a workforce that eats free things. So now you no longer have to pay somebody to do something. That's why I'm saying you will be on the other side of capitalism because you'll be post-scarcity. I mean, we might invent scarcity of certain things and fine, we'll see what actually ends up happening. But I'd be like, this is awesome. Like living in a world where anybody can have what they want is awesome. I love it. I want to see it. Now, it's going to create a meaning crisis. Talked about that. So anyway, I think I've said enough about that.
I was wanting to kind of just land the plane on the end part of that. So post-scarcity doesn't equal socialism for you because you think there's going to be something else that creates that scarcity and there's still going to be the...
It's not quite true. So post-scarcity, you can call communism, you can call socialism. I don't think those words will really mean what people expect them to mean because, for instance, socialism is technically you are capturing the means of production. You just won't need to do that because it's all going to be free. So the only thing that becomes a question is when we have access to resources at that level, do we get to a point where we're able to mine and extract resources from the earth so rapidly that we actually go through a period of post-scarcity only to then reinvent scarcity because we actually start running out of things? It's probably not what's going to happen because I don't think people will breed like that. Enter mouse utopia, but that is... Are those words the right words to use? No. But if people are trying to figure out if I've got beef with everybody having the same thing, I do not have beef with everybody having the same thing. What I have beef with is you taking from me when I'm able to do something better than other people, and you take away from me and give to other people who are not as skilled or hardworking or disciplined or whatever. So...
The rebuttal in chat is, that's all authoritarianism still. If an AI overlord creates post-scarcity, what mechanism do you think it will use but violence?
Well, so ask, like run the thought experiment. So imagine for a second that AI has no need, it has no internal desire to overlord over you. It just says, hey, here's a way to make energy free. You guys can do it or not. But there it is. People are going to run with it. To your point about being a programmer, realizing how many of these tools are for free, if an AI says, I've solved it, here are the crystalline structures that you need to make to have better photovoltaic cells, and we go and do it, and we're like, oh my God, like we're able to capture with 98% efficiency the energy coming from the sun, we can do whatever we want. And so then we initially build that first like set of robots, right? But the costs will have been driven down, 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 down because as energy costs go down, all of that stuff's going to be cheaper, but it won't be free because humans are still going to have to do it. But once you have like that first set of robots, then it's like the robots make the next set of robots. And because the energy is free, then the extraction of the minerals and stuff, those are free. And so will humans fight? Is it going to get very weird in the middle? Yes, because if there are, let's say, rare earth minerals in America are only available in Kentucky, Kentucky's going to feel some kind of way about everybody rolling up to extract their minerals, free or not. I'm not saying there won't be weirdnesses like that. I'm just saying energy costs hitting zero would be transformational in a way that people don't fully understand. Like that would just be massive. Now, if AI is the one saying, you don't have to follow my lead, but there it is. These are the things that you can use. You're going to be in good shape. How much violence will there be in the transitional period? I think there will be pockets of violence. We will not get out of this scot-free. That's for sure. The transition is going to be rough.
And then a couple other people are saying, why not do what the Nordic countries do or what Japan does? And I think those are probably...
Well, I don't know what they mean by Japan. Japan is not in a good place, but Japan is not who we want to emulate. I think that's Eric behind the TV. Eric, can I get another water, please? Thank you. So yeah, you don't want to mirror Japan right now. Japan is in trouble. Norway
Singapore
is like
Japan.
the gangster. Singapore is a totally different story. We'll get into that. Hassan and I briefly talked about Singapore, and Drew thinks that I am factually incorrect. So I'll need to do a deeper dive on Singapore. Okay, let's focus on Norway. Norway has geographic things that make it a very unique story that you would have a very hard time copy pasting onto America. Their fjords, which give them easy access all over the country, from the interior of the country where they have like all of these lumber deposits down into the waterways so that they can easily distribute them, hundreds of years ago when that really mattered. That put them in a great situation. Also, all of the different fjords and being able to connect the whole country gave them like this really collectivist vibe. But the real win for them was a negotiation that they did with the British. They gave them access to oil. So they had all these oil reserves out in the ocean, and using that at the national level and saying, okay, we're going to build this gigantic sovereign wealth fund, put them in a position where now they have a ton of money. But they also, I'll have to look more deeply at exactly how Norway does this, but like Sweden does a lot of their healthcare and things. It's still privatized. It's just guaranteed. So they tax the life out of the middle class, which I'm going to guess is what they do in Norway as well. So it's not socialism in that sense. You've got private companies that are paid for by the government, and you tax everybody, not just the wealthy. So when you really start looking at what the Nordic countries are doing well, it just becomes a question of, okay, well, do we want to tax everybody? Because right now, 50% of Americans only pay 3% of the tax. So basically, 50% of Americans get a free ride. We try to reduce the tax burden on the middle class as much as we can, and that won't work when you start doing guaranteed health care and some of the other educational stuff that they do. It's just the welfare state's too big. You have to tax everybody.
And for clarification, Roberto Blake said that he was talking about use Japan as a model for education because they're in school all day. That matches the work schedule. They have national identity, all like one.
Well, the national identity part, that I'll give them, though Japan is really, really, really in trouble demographically. So talk to me again in 20 years. But
when there's 16 of them left?
Yeah, literally. From a, what was it? There are other countries. Oh, the in school all day. I don't think Japan is winning that game. I think that's an India-China game. So if you're really trying to be like, what are the cultures that put the most pressure on their kids to get educated? I think we can agree. Yeah. But Japan's on the list to be sure, but Asia just in general is about education.
We do need to like radically just, this is my gripe with politics, right? Because there are things that are fundamentally broken in America that needs to change. And I think instead of changing them at the root level, we put Band-Aids on them and we try to go back to how it was in the 80s and the 70s, back when it was in the good days, back in my day. Like, it doesn't make sense right now. My daughter's school schedule is like 7:30 to like 2. Like, that's just not practical in 2025 when everybody works.
Because she gets off too early?
Yeah, like traditionally working 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I guess maybe the 7 o'clock drop off so I could get to work cool, but the 2 o'clock pickup doesn't necessarily make sense.
Why not a bus?
Huh?
Why not a bus home? Are
Just-
latchkey kids not a thing anymore?
they're not a thing anymore.
Because people are afraid?
Like bus systems are weird, and then in Arizona, the school that would be eligible for a bus is a terrible school, so we want to go bring it to another school, so then we lose that bus access. But yeah, the whole like get dropped off and go, like it's not a thing. So it's
so interesting.
Yeah, so then aftercare becomes a thing, or you just have to pick up your kid early. But I just think in general, we can structure education systems in a different way with how the economy and society looks now versus how it looked when we started this, when it was all factory lines and assembly lines and factory workers. But yes, talking about socialism, let's go to Zoran Mamdani.
Let's go.
Who started the hashtag release the Cuomo list. And I'm not gonna lie, I think he's winning this election race because this was a good video.
Bro, Pauly Market's got him like
4 years
80
ago,
or
and-
90%.
Yeah, and it's like I
Wow.
don't think it's gonna work in New York. I don't agree with this policy for that region. But this video is
Nonetheless,
bars.
he's gonna get elected.
Yeah, this video is bars.
4 years ago, Andrew Cuomo resigned in disgrace, and you probably know why.
The governor's office kept the nursing home death data secret.
Cuomo aggressively groped an aide.
Inappropriately touched a female state trooper.
Use of state resources for a COVID-19 memoir.
Less well known is what he spent the last 4 years doing, besides getting trounced in the Democratic primary. In 2022, Cuomo started Innovation Strategies LLC to represent individuals and corporations in a variety of matters. Definitely not vague. Last year, it raked in more than $500,000. Who paid for Cuomo's services? He refuses to say. But what journalists have been able to piece together is troubling. In April, Bloomberg revealed that Cuomo advised a cryptocurrency exchange based in the Seychelles as it faced federal investigations. Then in May, Politico reported that Cuomo failed to disclose $2.6 million in stock options to the New York City Conflicts of Interest Board. His excuse? The stocks were technically owned by Innovation Strategies LLC, of which he's the sole proprietor. Finally, in June, the New York Times uncovered that Cuomo had worked with his longtime friend Andrew Farkas on a luxury marina project in Puerto Rico. Farkas' previous partner on luxury marinas in the Caribbean, Jeffrey Epstein.
We had a finance chair like none other, Andrew Farkas.
That's the thing about Andrew Cuomo. Once you think you found out about all of his scandals, you find out about another, and then another, and then probably another. But if my friend, the disgraced former governor of the state of New York, feels that's unfair, Habibi, release your client list.
Yeah.
Bars.
Yeah. There's
Bars.
a reason that he's at 80+% on
New York
Pauly Market.
about to be socialist.
Literally, New York about to be socialist.
Eric
This is
Adams can't
wild.
compete with that. Andrew Cuomo can't compete with that.
What's the story on Eric Adams? I don't know anything about him.
There's nothing to know about him.
But why? What does he suck at?
He was a meme, and then it became like real. Like he just says ridiculous things. Like he was supposed to be like I'm the no nonsense. Like he was giving like uncle energy. Like I'm gonna show you how it is. And back in my day, we used to do things like this. And then between COVID and the Trump candidacy, and then now he has like ties to some illegal stuff he's been doing. He kind of lost the grip. Like
whoops.
It became a meme, and then it became serious, which is why with Mamdani, it's interesting because I see him going in the same way where he's be carrying this character of like, oh, burn, you got Cuomo. Oh yeah, it's gonna be cool. But when the scandals start rolling in, or when things start to get a little dicey, would that cool videos aren't gonna lower your rent? So when that comes out.
Yeah. Well, it does seem like we have to touch the hot stove like every couple generations to find out that, oh yeah, these things don't work in reality. They really sound good. But the bad news is, man, you are always going to encounter the truth of how humans are, and humans just don't get down like this.
What are the odds if he gets elected of it snowballing into moving into other places versus we immediately see, oh, this is bad, and then we stop?
Ooh, you won't see this is bad and then we stop, because everybody's going to be like, well, you got to carry it out longer and all that stuff. So it'll be like, it'll be a softening of impact. You'll lose some billionaires. Tax revenue will go down. You'll squeeze a little bit harder. You realize you're going to have to like up taxes to pay for things. And so people will be like, wait, this all sounds rad, but I don't know that it's working out. He'll get his however many years in office, and then people won't be definitively yes one way or the other. That's a problem. Like, it'll just start a backlash that will grow where people are like, okay, look, these things aren't working, but then that has to work its way into the popular sentiment. So it'll first have to basically the next generation has to grow up going, these things didn't work the way that we thought they would. But people say that de Blasio was very similar, that he was doing things like this that didn't work. And so people do recognize pretty fast, like, okay, wait a second, this is terrible. But they don't update their mental map as to exactly why it's terrible. And so you'll get a lot of, okay, it was a Mamdani problem, but it wasn't like necessarily socialist policy problems. This is how people can look at socialism in real life and be like, well, but if you did it for real, like that's wild. Like there was a guy who was saying like, what, the first 4 years in China or Russia, I forget which one he was talking about, like that was dope. And then, well, yeah, after that, like it went terrible. But for the first 4 years, it was great. It's like, what is happening right now? It's like, that's where those systems lead.
And another question is, can Mamdani actually usher in those changes? Won't he just be a mayor? What power do they actually have?
Yeah, so on that, I wouldn't even be able to map out exactly all the things that he can do. I can tell you he can't adjust the tax rate, so he's not going to be the guy in charge of that. So where exactly he will exert his power, I'm not entirely sure, but it will be things like freezing rents and stuff like that. That would make the billionaire class go, ooh, hold on a second. So it doesn't take a lot. Remember, when you've got 50% of people effectively pay no tax whatsoever, and then the top 10% pay, someone got like 85% or whatever it is. I mean, it's really, really high. So you don't have to lose a lot of billionaires before it has like a 3 to 5% effect on the amount of tax revenue that you collect. And now all of a sudden it's like, like you've just lost billions of dollars in revenue. So it just ends up being a harder balancing game than people expect. And I think in their pockets, they're thinking like, we'll be either, this is New York, no one's ever going to leave. Billionaires have already started leaving New York. So that's a terrible strategy. And then you get the, we can do like punitive confiscatory tax as they try to exit. And that you're going to get real pushback on that. Like if you really want to see people start fleeing, like even start hinting that you would do something like that. So yeah, that, it will be very interesting, and it's probably a worthwhile, not deep dive to release, but deep dive to learn about like what exactly can mayors do? What have they done historically? What was the role of the mayor in the absolute catastrophe the last time rent control was placed in New York? Because what they did to the Bronx was literally unforgivable. And so if that was driven by the mayors and city councils, like, you know what to expect. I mean, it was literally a war zone that inspired the movie Escape from New York. So
Andrew Cuomo has been clapping back at Mamdani about his $2,300 one-bedroom apartment in Astoria that is rent controlled.
Yeah, this is fun. I don't think it's as strong as what Mamdani did, but it's good.
Well, I don't, because he makes more money. He shouldn't be in this apartment. Like, what's the...
This is the same beef that people have with Hassan. Hassan lives in like a $2 million house or more. And so people are like, wait, you're a socialist, but you're rich. Like, help me make sense of that. Mamdani comes from a wealthy background. Mm-hmm. So he himself, I think people were estimating that he makes a couple $100,000 with him and his wife. Is he married?
I think so.
So people are saying, look, no matter how you slice it or dice it, this kid comes from money. He has money. And so the thought of him LARPing as like a man of the people is a bit crazy. And he has bragged about having a rent controlled apartment when he could afford a real apartment. So that means that there's somebody who can't afford an apartment that isn't getting the apartment because the supposed socialist is taking one of their slots. So bro, either you're a man of the people or you're not. And the post that Cuomo did, I think, got millions of views. I don't know if I can't see it there.
No, but this one is only $598. This is just a response to the $2,300 for the one bedroom.
Got it. So that is where Mamdani is going to be weak. He's Uganda is that's where he's from, if I remember correctly. Has like terrible. This is like the home of Idi Amin. Just an absolute bloodbath of human rights problems. Went to a wedding there that was like in this really posh, protected area. So people are like, hold on a second. This kid's like going to weddings in a foreign country. He's wealthy over there. His parents have money and influence. Like, this is wild that this kid is LARPing as a man of the people. So we'll see how far that goes.
Do you think that's a valid argument though? That because Andrew Cuomo's rich. Like capitalists can be rich.
100%.
Why can't socialists be rich?
Because if what you're fighting for is something that's going to break those economics, like what are you doing? You are doing well in a system that you're actively trying to break. That doesn't make any sense. A capitalist is saying, yes, the system is good. I have won in the system. And so you should learn how to win in the system.
But doesn't that give it more credence though? If I am winning in the capitalist system, I'm like, we should still break it because it's not winning. That should give that person more credence because they have every incentive not to break it. He has every incentive to stay in his $2,300 apartment and then become a landlord to somebody else.
It comes down to how you feel about Trump saying, me using all these tax loopholes makes me smart. So if Mamdani's going to stand 10 toes down and be like, listen, as long as this is a system, I'm going to win. I'm going to take your rent controlled apartment, and you person that actually needs it, fuck you. Like, I knew how to outmaneuver you. I got in here. You didn't. Tough titties. Like, if he's going to play that card and if people are going to be like, yeah, like get as much as you can, bro. I'll be a little surprised. People came after Hassan hard when it came out, like how much his house was worth. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that's going to be the energy. Now, I think when people who agree with Mamdani see that, they're not going to have a hard time overcoming that. They're going to be like, this is my guy. He's saying the things that I want said. He's promising to smash the system with a hammer for the same reason that people will overlook Trump is a billionaire saying that he's fighting for the working man. Like, when you're saying the thing that people want to hear, when you're the fighter for me, like, I'm going to overlook a whole lot of stuff. So yeah, I think that they will overlook that, no problem. But it is a banger. It's Cuomo at least clapping back on something that they will care about. So he'll get a new cycle out of it. I just don't think it's going to sway the election.
Let's go international because Friday is a big meeting between Trump and Putin. They will have it in Alaska, which has historic precedent because for those that don't know, we bought Alaska from Russia. I want to say it was $77.2 million because they were going bankrupt. Look at inflation. Wow. So it seems like this is something that is both historical credence. Trump is trying all he can to kind of woo Putin. Do you have high expectations that we're going to get a ceasefire?
Not at all. Nope.
0%.
I mean, not 0%. I'm not close enough to it. It's entirely possible that there really is something going on behind the scenes. But the two things that I will put on the table. Number one, Putin has said a gazillion times, yeah, let's negotiate. All the while he's like, nope. Like, correct. He has an agenda and he's playing that agenda out. Zelensky is up against a constitution that says you can't give the land. So he's in a position where it's like, even if the people voted for it, they would presumably have to have some sort of super majority, which I would assume they do not have because this is one part of the country that supposedly has more affiliation with Russia than the rest. Mm-hmm. But if the rest are bigger and they can outvote them and stop them from getting whatever majority they need to get to change the constitution, it's like if we were trying to negotiate with a country and it required a constitutional amendment for us to like get that across the board, it's never going to happen, especially not with a guy that is shown over and over. Like, he's going to make you think that he's doing something, but in reality, he's got a totally different game that he's playing, and he's just going to keep playing that. Realpolitik is the only thing that makes sense with Putin. Unless Putin thinks he is going to lose, he's going to keep pushing forward. He has not met the sufficient resistance to make him quit. I just don't see it. So he can continue to hammer his people down. Some part of him clearly believes that he's going to be able to win this war. So you have to convince him you're not going to win. Like, you have to convince him, not say the rhetoric. You have to actually convince him, where he's looking at the chessboard and he's like, all right, what do I got left? I've got a tactical nuke. I could drop that, but okay, that's going to create problems. I've got like my proper nukes. Okay, that's really going to cause problems. I can like draft more people into the military. I can consume more billionaires and spend more money on the war effort. But like, is it really getting me somewhere? The secondary sanctions are really starting to suck. Like, if he looks at that and he's like, oh, damn, I've got people openly rioting in the streets. I can only kill so many of them. And it's like, I killed a bunch and they're still rioting. Once he runs that calculus and he's like, okay, look, I'm not going to win. Then it's like, all right, let's negotiate. And as long as he's got a narrative that he can go to his people and be like, this was a victory, because he's got to think about staying in power. I mean, play that out.
Yeah.
If he's in a position where if I back off, I'm going to get ousted out of power, he's just going to keep going. Better to lose in office than to like just be like, okay, and like, no, I'm going to get either exiled or, oh, my airplane blew up midair. What a shame. So he's going to be running that calculus that even if he's not willing to do the nukes and all that stuff, he's not going to relinquish power. There's going to have to be a coup or something like that. So, yeah, I would say buckle up for the long term. I think he's probably far more interested in outlasting Trump because he's thinking, if I'm him, I only have to get him to the midterms.
And then his own country is going to eat him up. And
At a minimum, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, I got to string this guy along for like another, 18 months? Easy peasy.
Crazy. All right, let's get into React content. A Chinese Coast Guard boat was chasing a Philippine Coast Guard vessel and then ended up smashing. This was kind of nuts. Like, that just got too close for comfort. And then, bang, there it is.
Yep.
Like, did you not see the other boat? Because that boat looks big to me. I feel like I would see that other boat coming.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not on the phone, but I certainly think that the guy driving the boat would. Okay, so this is why the big boats are the Chinese boats, I am assuming, just make sure I get all this right. But that's certainly in keeping with what I would expect. People need to read what Xi Jinping is doing. According to reports, I obviously don't speak Chinese. I'm getting this information secondhand. However, Xi Jinping has started saying that these are private Politburo communications, but we're going to start being dismissive to America. Now, if they're being dismissive to America, you can imagine how they're being to Filipinos. It's like, bitch, this is our sea. We are Southeast Asia. Mm-hmm. You will do as you're told. If we tell you to back down, you will back down on principle. And the culturally, the Chinese have like a really just deeply entrenched idea of hierarchy. And the person who's lower in the hierarchy needs to show deference to the people higher. So this is that. Like, if I told you to move and you didn't move, I'm going to hit you with my boat. Simple as. If you're not supposed to be here, I'm going to run you over, shoot you, do whatever. Like, don't play. These are RCs. They're being more and more aggressive. And China, in their mind, I believe, is going to have hegemonic control over Southeast Asia to begin, but just Asia full stop, in the near-ish future, called the next 25 years. Like, for them, it's just like, yeah, this is going to be it. And then on a long enough timeline, they see themselves as stepping into the hegemonic position globally that the U.S. has had. And they see that as a mandate from heaven. So it's like, don't be surprised by this. They will escalate. Only be surprised that you see the footage. Because, yeah, you're going to see more and more of this.
Does this have any indicator about what they're going to do with Taiwan?
1,000%. If they believe that Taiwan is rightfully China, that it needs to be reintegrated, that they have an economic interest in getting control of the chips, or that they believe it's necessary for AI, they will 100% when they believe that the time is right. And I'm not the guy to tell you yet. I'm doing more and more research on this, but I'm not the guy yet to tell you whether that's going to be in a month or 10 years. But for sure, Xi Jinping has made it abundantly clear we are going to reunify with Taiwan. Taiwan is strategically important. We will never back down. It is one China. So, I mean, he has not been unclear. Like, he's been messaging the same thing since he came into power. I think he was messaging, certainly the government was messaging the same thing before Xi Jinping came into power. Like, this is a long-standing thing. So that's not going to go anywhere. Do they feel that they have what they need to move on it now? It doesn't seem like it. But they are getting more and more aggressive. And so the question becomes, do they get what they need from TSMC via negotiations with the US? If they do, great, then they'll back off. And I've got to imagine that's part of Trump's negotiations in terms of why he's giving them access to better stuff. It's like, better to give them the release valve than to see them make a move on Taiwan, which would be worse for everybody. One, it would force us into a confrontation to establish our authority, and from the perspective of we have not migrated enough of the chip manufacturing capabilities to the US. So I get why he would give them a release valve, but it's only going to make them more powerful, which is only going to march them further down the road. So tries to weaken them with tariffs, tries to make their economy less stable. That, I think, is he's going to have to do that. But the biggest, most important thing, so that nobody takes their eye off the ball, you've got to onshore critical manufacturing, period. Simple as. Like, that's the game.
possibility of a hot war. Do you think the Taiwan takeover and those things will happen first before us in the U.S., us and China collide at all?
Yes, for sure. Like that.
That's going to be the jumping off point.
It could be. Listen, it will depend on where are they economically, where are we economically, like what do we have in reserves. Right now, they outproduce ships at like 20-1. I mean, it is some outrageous number. So it might even be more than that. We are way behind the 8 ball. They know that. They're having their own economic difficulties right now. We know that. So right now, like nobody's ready to make a move. Both of us are racing towards Thucydides' trap. They're trying to get as strong as fast as they can. We're trying to get as strong as fast as we can. They're starting to bully their neighbors. We're bullying our neighbors. Like everybody's trying to line up their allies. So they're doing shit like that in Southeast Asia. We're going to Europe and slapping them around and giving them a bunch of tariffs. We're telling Canada they're about to become the 51st state. We're telling Mexico, I can't believe we haven't talked about this. We're going to fucking, hey, you got cartels coming across the border. We got to chase them into your country. It is what it is. Now, I don't know that we've said that we would cross the border, but talking about border skirmishes, you know how Mexico is going to feel about that. They're going to feel some kind of way. So both of these two superpowers are like, listen, bitch, we're the big bad motherfucker around here. We are economically, we are militarily, and everybody's going to start acting like it. This is this moment in history. This is Thucydides' trap. Man, so much of history is predictable. And the really sad thing is it's predictable because of the way that humans are. The human mind works in a knowable way. It's complicated, and of course it will be messy, and you're only ever going to be directionally correct. But these things repeat in this never-ending tragic cycle. And because I can't get myself out of it, I legitimately, I am not interested in accepting second place, and I couldn't talk myself into doing it even if I were. Like, I'm just like, that is so anathema to the way I feel about myself, the way I feel about my country, what I know that it would be like for us economically, my just absolute pathological inability to let people hold dominion over me. This is another reason that I pursued entrepreneurship. I'm a freak when it comes to being told what to do. So yeah, you're going to get a whole lot of that energy from both countries. And because of that, we're just racing towards like this tragic meeting point. And the only hope that we have of avoiding it is AI. It's either holding status quo, which China, I'm sure, would consider a tragedy, or AI comes and is like, hey, everybody, don't worry, like free stuff for everybody. And then we'll find out how much people still care about being number one. They might still care. That's the weird part.
Allegedly, because I
about
don't
to
see
find
AI
out.
doing that. All right, let's jump over to Minnesota, where the Vikings, go Vikes, we taking it this year. Vikes will be in the playoffs. Anybody want to do some sports betting in the chat? You can follow me. I got it. I'll put anything up on that. They do have a new male dancer, and this is getting people feeling the type of way. What was your initial read when you heard about this?
It seems like really a misread on your audience. So I'm looking at it as a marketer going, I literally couldn't care less. If guys in cheerleading is dope. Like they're fucking powerful. They throw people like super high. It's awesome. Like when you see collegiate cheerleading, there is no sport that has more injuries that end in death or paralysis than cheerleading.
It's crazy.
So cheerleading is like hardcore, man. When it's done well, it is hardcore. So it's like traditionally the cheerleaders on the football field like this has been eye candy for the guys that are the primary watchers of football. So I'm just like, give your audience what they want. This is like, as a game developer, because I'm aimed at kids, we don't do like super sexualized women. But like if I were making games for adults, I'd give big titties everywhere. It's like, that's for whatever reason, like guys, they love that. Great. Like give your fan base what they want. But this just seems like a misread of fan base. So I don't know if this is like, whoa, Taylor Swift was such a phenomenon. Let's like give women like a, forgive me, because he could be the straightest man alive, but he looks gay as hell.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's give him a gay guy like doing his like cheerlead thing. Maybe they're into, I don't know. But wow, does this feel like a misread of your audience? I think that Minnesota Viking fans, like actual, I'm in the stands, even when it's snowing fans, are going to be like, this is dumb.
I'm all for meritocracy. And if he can twerk, then he should be on the cheerleading squad with all the other twerkers.
But now, is part of the meritocracy the
best
Calipigian
person.
ass? Like, do we need like that nice full? Because he does not have a nice ass from where I'm sitting.
Amen.
I'm not a fan.
If he can 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 with the rest of them, if he can get his splits and his squats, then he's the man for a job. And you know what? I'm tired of these DEI people coming in and telling people that it has to be a woman or it has to be big boobs or big butt, and that's inappropriate.
All right.
If he's the best man for the job, meritocracy 2025.
I think on that one we have to we have to figure out. Wait, hold on. Now I'm getting confused. Are you clapping for the joke or are you clapping for the reality? Eric,
don't tell me, right?
Wait, it was G. G, are you saying that like you want more twinks in cheerleading? Is that where we're at? No. Hold on. I need to know, G. What was the applause
Stand on the
for?
claps, G. Stand on the claps.
This is amazing. All right, we're getting G a t-shirt that says Twinks. We need more twink cheerleaders. All right, G. Everybody's got their thing. Let's go.
If anything, this is just bulletin board behavior for the other football team. Oh, they got a gay guy cheerleading. That means you got to throw the ball hard. Like this. What are we really talking about? This is not a big thing.
To me, this is like this is just marketing. And if your fan base loves it, do more of it. Like if they had an entire squad of twink cheerleaders because that's what puts butts in seats, I'm here for it. But if it doesn't, that's where I'm just like, what are we doing? This gets so strange. This is when people have what I call invisible goals. Mm-hmm. So if your invisible goal is to outrage people, okay, this works for that. If your invisible goal is diversity, okay, this works for that. If your invisible goal is positivity towards the gay community, again, if he is gay, this works for that. But if your goal is put butts in seats, this is weird.
I mean, Minnesota's the same place that birthed Prince, you know, and Prince has been famously sexually ambiguous. So, you know, maybe that's just they're going to that market.
Yeah. Like I said, if this works, when I say, dude, if people want me to have beef with gay people, I have got absolutely no beef. So I am just talking as a marketer. Like, does this get your fan base amped up? If it does, do more. If it doesn't, do less. Prince got his fan base amped up, but Prince is not exactly going to appeal to Danzig's audience. And so I'm saying this football, NFL, strikes me more as a Danzig play. And all of a sudden we've got Prince energy on the cheerleading field, and I'm confused. So we'll see.
It would be hilarious if he was straight this whole time and he's just cleaning up in that cheerleading.
That would be amazing.
That would be the biggest plot twist.
Yeah, no, I'm here for that.
All right, let's see how problematic we can get. Let's keep going.
Take us into the dark places.
Okay, so Royce Lopez, who I'm going to call a troll. I don't know you personally, bro, but your response to the comments seemed trollific. Every single person who encouraged this, from family members, friends, and the doctors who performed the sex change.
All right,
surgery.
sorry. Before you can read that, you have to tell people what they're seeing. So if you're not looking at your phone, this is okay. Should I tell people what it looks like you're looking at, or what they're actually looking at?
What they're actually looking at, and I'll leave the...
Okay, what you're actually looking at is a young man with cerebral palsy who identifies as a woman who had top surgery, and he's very excited about it.
Wait, wouldn't it be the other way? I thought you take the titties out.
Yeah, that's what he had.
Trans male who...
Yeah, sorry if I said that the wrong way. Yeah. This is a woman who had her breasts removed and is very excited about it. Yeah. So it's a trans man.
Trans male. Who has he, him pronouns.
Yes. So born female, had breasts removed, and has cerebral palsy, and is very excited to show off. Okay, that's what you're actually seeing. That's not how the poster presents it, and that's not how most of the people in the comments reacted, just for maximum clarity.
And then the person who presented it said, every single person who encourages, from family members, friends, and the doctor who performed the sex change surgery on the severely mentally retarded person should spend their entire life underneath the jail. And that's because we only do the death penalty for murder. Is there a line between gender identity and mental capacity? Like, should we only do trans surgeries for people who can sign the waiver form? Like, is there some type of safeguard that should be in place there? As
18 plus, you are of efficient or an appropriate level of intellectual capability. Now, it is my understanding that people with cerebral palsy, while they have a very hard time controlling their motor skills, as you're seeing here, that they are cognitively there. So then I'm like, look, I think he's 20. He, to be polite, I am so sorry. God, I sketched. That he is cognitively capable and of age. So like, do your thing. Mm-hmm. No beef whatsoever. If somebody was actually mentally retarded, that to me is like crazy town.
That
you cannot let them. No way. Hard pass. That is sinister. You can have physical complications, be living with pain forever for something that you don't understand. That is somebody puppeteering you. If you do not have an intellect that meets a certain threshold, you are not able to think through these things clearly. You're not able to predict like future outcomes clearly enough. And so the odds of them being bamboozled, like there are people that have plenty of cognitive horsepower that end up wishing they hadn't transitioned because of things like certainly with bottom surgeries, it can be so complicated and there can be discomfort that goes on forever. So it's like, these are very difficult things to think through. And so again, if somebody's got the cognitive horsepower, great. And as far as I know, regardless of cerebral palsy, you are able to think normally, regardless of motor function control. So this one, yeah, cool. If that's what they wanted to do, does not strike me as the best idea, but if that's what they want to do, they should be allowed to do it.
Okay.
What's the IQ cutoff for?
If you're going to make me give you a number, I'll say there is a legal definition for a moron. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of 80. And so I'll say whatever the legal definition of moron is, if you're below that, great. No permanent medical decision-making for you. You must have a guardian in the same way that somebody who's under 18 must. Perfectly fine with that.
It's 51 to 70.
Great. Whatever that number is, but if you meet the legal definition of a moron,
then you're not allowed to transition.
You're not allowed to do anything with permanent medical consequences without somebody signing off on it. Treat them like a minor. So whatever rights we give minors, whatever we let minors do, then we would let them do.
Well, some people want to let minors transition as well.
That's madness.
And that's my next thing. So this is why I'm nervous about this argument, because if it becomes a cognitive thing, then we take age away and they say, well, if it's a bright 14-year-old, then they should be able to. So
let's say you have to meet
that scores
dual,
100, then you know what I mean?
Dual age and I do think that makes sense, age and intellect. And by all means, make the number low. I'm not trying to trap people that I just think, oh, this guy's an idiot. That's not what I'm trying to go for. I'm saying there is legitimate realities to be faced about cognitive ability. I wish there was not, but there are. And you pick some threshold. I should not be the one to set that policy. I'm merely giving you my answer. If you're asking what I would vote for, that's what I would vote for. People need to make their own decisions, and we will take. I'm perfectly willing to live in a world where it's like everybody gets to vote and it's like whatever we decide, even if I think it's idiotic, and I will scream from the rooftops that I think it's idiotic, but I'm not going to burn things to the ground. I'm not going to try to storm the Capitol. I'm going to be like, listen, I get it. This is a world that we live in. I don't get to control everybody's thinking, and I shouldn't be able to control everybody's thinking, but I have no problem telling you where I'm at.
Someone's playing devil's advocate. Someone should say, why can't a moron still make a bad decision because they're old enough to make bad decisions, even if they're a moron?
Vote for it. I think that's sinister. In the same way that why can't a 40-year-old seduce a 16-year-old? I think we all agree there's something super weird about that. It's legal in certain states. And if you're cool with it being legal in certain states, what if I say, why can't they seduce a 14-year-old? I think we'd all agree, yeah, that should be fucking illegal. And what we're saying is the person does not have the cognitive horsepower to understand the consequences of that sexual relationship. That guy can seduce somebody his own age. Nobody's got beef. So what we're saying is there is a mismatch in the power dynamic based on the discrepancy between life experience and intellectual capability. And since we all think that there are certain regions in which that becomes really problematic and we want to build laws around it, I'm saying somebody doing permanent damage to their body that could have consequences that will suck forever, like doing that when we know they can't process through that well, that's just, at some point you just have to admit that's sinister. So treat them like a minor. I'm not trying to put them in a position where they can't live a life of dignity, but yes, should they have somebody help them? 1,000%.
This was Control Alt Delusion said, so what do you think about charging 14, 15, and 16-year-olds as adults?
This is where this gets, I'll give you what my opinion is, but I get why this becomes a gray area. I think cognitively, they do not have the horsepower. I understand the way the brain develops. They literally lack the prefrontal cortex. So if you take somebody that already has like low impulse control because they're a child, and you put them in a household where they're not being given discipline, and then they go do some crazy ass shit, it's like, yeah, I want to treat them differently because they're a child. And I want to put them in a system where it's like, okay, how late in the game are we? There is certainly a point, like a 16 or 17-year-old, could I see if it was heinous enough treating them like an adult? Yes. Do I think that that's largely triggering off of punitive instincts? Yes. Am I willing to sacrifice when they start getting 16 is probably my cutoff? Yeah. But I'm going to be honest about what it is. It's like the person who they killed or whatever, like that the level of damage that you do to their life, I just think is disproportionate to the damage that you will do to that child's life by treating them like an adult and incarcerating them. But I hate it. It's so gross. And because I understand the things that are actually happening from the brain development standpoint, that is a tragedy that is so deep. A very, very close friend of mine was killed by two 15-year-olds, stole a car, high-speed car chase. He's at a red light. They plow into him, just kill him dead instantly. Fucking brutal. Anyway, it happened. So do I want to see those kids tried as adults? No, I do not. Is it a tragedy? Yes, it is. If they were 16, would I feel differently? Yes, I would. Is that relatively arbitrary? Yes, but it's also based on my experience with people and how the brains age. So anyway, they should still be locked up. They should not just be given a free pass, but it should be in a juvenile detention center. I'm sure those all suck. So we should also look at what can we do to actually make those places where people can come out better and not worse. But you can't just let people roam about in society. Like you gotta like pull them aside 1,000%.
Yeah. I feel like age has been like the great negator, and we're so used to it that I think that's an easy place to start. I'm just glad we're not having an argument about 7 and 8-year-olds transitioning no more, and at least
that was wild.
Yeah, now we're at least getting a little bit more nuanced with it.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah. All right. I do feel like this is something that is like dropping. Asmongold had a video about this recently about how the left and the right were divided. And he was like, one of the things that he thinks is plaguing the left is that they have picked up these causes that sound good, but 90% of Americans aren't impacted. One of the issues he brought
aren't impacted, or they hate.
Like it just doesn't matter for everyday life to them. So for example, it was like the trans argument. Like we've gone so hard.
Well, this matters to people.
It matters, but in their day-to-day life, again, 10%, if that, of the population knows a trans person.
This is a mismap. Yeah. This is why I'm saying what we are up against are values. People will fight and kill for their values. That it doesn't matter if they are never going to meet a trans person ever. People believe, especially when you throw God in the mix, they believe that a divine creature put me on this earth and wants me to live a certain way. I know because they wrote a book and I'm able to read the book, and the book says the thing that makes me think that they don't like trans people, gay people, whatever. And so they look at that and go, God has mandated that this simply cannot be. And they'll kill people for that. So not everybody, obviously. I'm just saying up to going that far. So people really internalize their value system. They really want their value system propagated. They want the laws to enshrine their value system. They want people stopped that don't share their value system. And it's like, it is a question of values. So when somebody believes that God put you in your body, that God made you in his image, that you are perfect, and then you're letting a 7-year-old desecrate the body that God gave them, it doesn't matter if they have kids. It doesn't matter if they know kids. They know God, and God said not to do that in their interpretation, and they are going to freak out. Once you start mapping people that, they go crazy over their values, not over what's practical in their life, they go crazy over their values, then it's like all of a sudden the way that people act will make all the sense in the world.
Yeah, we'll see. Midterms right around the corner, so we'll see what issue we're bringing up and thumping this time.
Oh man, like that, you can predict all of them right now. So you're going to have socialism is going to be on the docket. So fascism, people are going to certainly think that Trump is overstepping, and we don't want that anymore. The way that we're treating homeless people, I think you're still going to see the trans issue being pushed. I think that that's still a big thing. The policies of the DSA, which I really tried to get Hassan to talk about, did not work. Hassan was very like, hey, it's not really my stance. So anyway, you guys will see it. But I want the DSA to become part of our beat. I want to cover what they're saying. I am literally completely blown away. So you're triggering my value set. And so now like, yep, I'm going to push back against that as hard as I can. So you're going to see that on the docket, and economics will be the vast, vast, vast majority of what we talk about. If the economy is booming, then Trump will likely maintain a Republican majority. If not, we're going to lose it. Housing, people are going to scream about it, but that's really in the economic bucket. And then you're going to get, it probably won't be big this year, but you give one more election cycle, and depending on what happens in Europe, you're going to start seeing pushback against certainly Islamism. Some people will confuse it with Muslims, but you'll certainly start to see that pushback.
Well, our border's closed, so hopefully we don't have to deal with that. All right, going around the world, in the BBC reported that a Canadian man survived 9 days in the wilderness drinking just dirty pond water.
Ooh, that's high risk.
I know you're always talking about like alive and like, can you do it? Like, could you survive?
Alone.
Oh, alone.
Alone.
But I said alive?
Alive, yeah. Very also fascinating, but that one a little bit different.
I don't know. There's two questions I always ask them this, like, can you survive in the wilderness for 30 days? And if the zombie apocalypse was tomorrow, would you want to ride it, or would you want to like eject?
Just go out, yeah.
Yeah, like
it's crazy to me that people hit eject. I don't get that.
So you're okay with a mass apocalyptic event that fundamentally
over death? Yes.
Yes.
Now, partly because I don't believe in heaven, so I don't think I'm going somewhere better. So I'm like, it's either an eternal nap or what would be terrifying but fascinating experience of like, holy hell, like this is actually, like it's actually here, boys and girls. This is the apocalypse. To not like at least want to catch a glimpse of that. Now, if I knew that I couldn't eject at some point, like when people say, hey, you can live forever, but you have to live forever, would you do it? Then I'm like, that's too dangerous. Because you could end up in a loop where you just go mad. Like everybody else dies, nuclear apocalypse, you are quite literally the only person alive. It's too high risk. The human mind is fragile in a way that I don't want to toy with. Like one of the most cruel and unusual ways to punish somebody is simply to isolate them. Yeah. That's weird. Like I'm still shocked that is true. And as much as I like to be isolated, I know I only like to be isolated in the context of at any moment I can go talk to my wife. So yeah, I try not to be cocky about everyone breaks. So maybe my breaking point's farther away. Maybe it's closer, but I know that everyone breaks, and I don't think I would escape that.
Are you like a camper? Like, could you actually see yourself surviving out in like the wild? And
I would have to start in a high resource area. There's no way you could just drop me off in the woods and I would know what to do immediately. But if you start me like in a video game where you start people, you spawn them somewhere where it's like, okay, there's access to some resources. You don't spawn too many enemies there. You give them a little bit, like in Project Kaizen, you get a safety dome that lasts for a certain duration. So it's like, hey, it's ticking down. You better like figure out some basics. So if I had that, like I would do okay. But I would need to be able to like slowly go out. Did you ever see the movie Into the Wild?
Mm-mm.
Oh man, fascinating. True story. Kid, a book was written about him. So this kid ends up like growing up super elite, but wildly dysfunctional family, goes to the elite college, decides he's like going to go out into the Alaskan wilderness and live, I don't know, forever, for a year or whatever, but decides he's at least going to go, yep, there it is. Mm-hmm. He's going to spend at least a year. And bad news punchline for you, he starves to death. So it's like you think you know until you get out there and you're like, oh, damn, I'm not even sure what berries I can eat, which ones like are going to cause diarrhea, which is going to like, you know, speed up my demise, which ones are going to be fine. He ends up killing like a giant elk or something. And he knows how to cure the meat, but he fucks up. And so like he gets very little of the meat and the rest gets maggots. And so he's not able to eat it. And then it's snow. And so there's nowhere else. And he goes, okay, well, fuck it. I'll just walk back to civilization, only to find that the river rises like 20 feet or whatever. And now it's massive and uncrossable. So he's literally got himself isolated. Now, the worst thing is he's like a mile from like one of those fire lookouts and he never finds it. But man, it's you think you're going to be fine until you really have to do it. And again, watching that show alone, you realize very quickly you're exerting a certain number of calories to get your next batch of calories. Mm-hmm. And if you exert 100 calories to get 90 calories, you're going to die. So even though you're eating, you're still going to die. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's like entrepreneurship. You've got to spend 100 calories to make 120 calories. Now you're going to live. And that difference, dude, is life and death. And if you're not in the right locale with the right amount of resources spawning around you, you are cooked.
Sheesh. All right, let's go over to the United Kingdom that just keeps getting...
Man, I so want to know how Dave Smith, So Bella Pictures, is asking the question. So furries get a pass? Every now and then, like, we are always looking at chat, but sometimes you get so little context that it's just like, I don't even know what to say. But that one had to be commented on. I have no idea. I don't know what you're talking about, but it's amusing that came up.
No comment on the furries.
These women aren't friends out for a run. They're actually undercover police officers taking to the streets in Surrey as part of a new operation trying to stop people catcalling.
First of all,
and harassing.
How much confidence do you have to be like, put me in some yoga pants? I'll get somebody arrested. You know, there was like 10 of them. And it was like, all right, who's yoga panting up? Who's going out? Girls are looking around like, do I say it? Do I admit I'm the one? This is wild. Everything about this is terrible. I hate this.
Female runners.
We get honked at, the staring, the hanging out of the window just to look at us. And it's so
Drew,
so
it's time for my favorite slogan. You're mad at God. You're mad at God. God was like, I got to give you an ass that's like kapow so that this guy wants to have sex with you so that we can procreate. This is the game that you're mad at. The guy's brain is being squeezed. Now, this doesn't mean that his father shouldn't have been like, hey, asshole, we don't fucking yell at women. I get it. I get why they have beef. But you're fighting against nature. Like, there has to be some kind of dance. So you're not saying, I don't want them to find me attractive. I'm saying the way they express their attraction is, even if you don't touch me, could be an arrestable offense. That's so retarded. This is full retard. Full blown.
And police teams are ready to intervene the moment the officers are beeped at, followed, or shouted at, pulling people over.
That is crazy. Dude, what is happening to my beloved UK? This is so wild. How can they look themselves in the face? This is ridiculous. You're going to pull someone over for honking at you. Come on, kids.
Be criminal offences in themselves, but they still need to be addressed. And of course, the people that are likely to commit those kind of behaviours, they may then go on to commit more serious offences or more serious behaviours.
These guys sound like morons. This is so crazy. Marusha, you are correct. The UK is no longer a serious country. And I've spent a lot of time in the UK. Like this kind of stuff is so dumb. When you watch them knock on the door of a pensioner and they're like, I'm so sorry, we have to take you away to jail for the thing that you tweeted. I'm like, what? It's crazy. How the mighty have fallen. They once ruled the world, Drew, and they're now arresting people for
This is the 100-year decline. This is what we need to be worried about.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
There was a video a couple weeks ago that was men aren't approaching women anymore. A bunch of women walking out from a bar saying how men are whack, they don't do anything.
I can't imagine why.
Like, is this women in the chat? Maybe you can help us out. People who identify as women, people who like to get approached in bars, help us out. Do you think that the catcalling lockdown is going to increase your chances at the bar? Like, I feel like these are counterintuitive. Like,
dude, oh my God, this is so dumb.
Again, following like abuse is not okay. I'm not saying that, but if a guy is trying to talk to you, not every guy is suave. Not every guy is, charming. Some guy's gonna yell. Other guys are gonna hold the door open. Some guy's gonna throw money at you. Like, but all of these are the same tactic for the same thing. So if we just say, I'm gonna stop this one thing, I think that then kind of sends the signal that you want all of the things to stop, and that might be second order consequence we haven't thought through.
Oh my God, for sure. Like, this is dumb on its face. This will obviously have terrible consequences. This is as if the police don't have anything to do. They are literally trying to entrap people. They are sending women out in spandex, in jogging or yoga pants, specifically trying to get men to ogle them. This is so weird. This is too dumb to be real. This is too dumb, but it is real. That's the terrifying part.
And is there a male force with some dudes in like leggings and gray sweatpants running around and just trying?
They know better than that. Women don't react like that. But like, if you can get a woman arrested for coming up because she sees your nice car, if you can get a woman arrested for walking up and being like, "Will you buy me a drink?" That's a nice watch. In fact, I'm going to start wearing $400,000 watches, and if a woman comments on it, I want her to get arrested. I don't. This is ridiculous. But like, that is the flip side of this. This is so stupid. I cannot believe this is real.
Is this the equivalent of like leaving like a little bit of drugs outside to kind of catch like a drug dealer? Like,
no, because that at least is like, the activity in and of itself is illegal. This is, hey guys, for the survival of the fucking species, you've got to find a way to convince a girl to let you put your genitals inside of her. But by the way, if you go up to her and you whistle or you call, I'm going to fucking arrest you. This is so wild. Do people not understand what sex is? Like, this is crazy. This is like people with some storybook version of what this game is, like trying to make rules. Like you said, I get, if you're following a woman, you're a creep. You should be stopped. If you touch a woman when you shouldn't, you're a creep. You should be stopped. If you are expressing in a cat call that you find a woman attractive, listen. I would expect your boys to clown on you because that is the dumbest way to try and approach a woman. I would expect a woman to be turned off and not be interested in you at all. But I would also expect the woman to go home and say, this guy whistled at me today. That felt pretty fucking awesome. And let me tell you, hey ladies, there's going to be a day where you're going to go out and your fucking, your 50-year-old cellulite thighs are not going to get you whistled at anymore, and you're going to feel some kind of way about it. And so it's like, hey, let's not be so cocky in our youth, because this shit goes away and you have an algorithm in your brain that is going to make that not feel good. As women age, they become invisible. That's not going to be fun. And so like, being a bitch about it now and getting guys arrested because they find you young and attractive, this is so dumb. This is so out of step with the way that the human mind works. What are these people thinking? This is so crazy. This one is just, this is a bridge too far for me, Drew.
Can we please clip that? Please.
I got you.
Please clip that.
That is so wild.
Be grateful that I'm even trying to yell at you, young woman.
For real. Look, my wife has come home before and been like, oh, I got whistled at or whatever. And she's like, I'm not going to lie. I try to remind myself to appreciate it now because I know one day it's going to stop. That's the right way to look at this. Again, if somebody's being an asshole, like, it's not what I'm talking about. Of course they can go too far. And if I had a friend that actually catcalled a girl, I'd be like, are you retarded? I'm like, that doesn't work. If it worked, fine. It does not work. But anyway, this
also,
like, we're really pushing.
Can we define catcall? How do we, what do we talk a catcall? It's like, hey, sexy, hey, sweet cheeks, come on.
Let's make it as simple as possible. Even doing the whistle.
Got it.
Right? Like, even that, does that work? No. Is that the least offensive of the versions? Yes, of course. You were saying, I find you attractive without saying any bad words or anything like that. Saying something that is sexually untoward, that to me is like, you're a moron. And I start feeling about that, like if they're really getting graphic, the other things I want to do or whatever, like, no. That one gets a hard pass for me. And I would, for sure, like, tell a friend they need to shut the fuck up if they were talking like that, because that does start to, there's a weird way, depending on how aggressive you are when you deliver it, that really starts to feel threatening. So yeah, I wouldn't want to see people cross that line, but.
Oh, okay. We got some spicy in the chat. Shout out to Jennifer. I think women complain about attention as a way to boast.
Truth. Yes, they did. Sorry. Is this a way to boast? Say that again.
I think women complain about attention as a way to boast.
That's interesting. Yeah, I could see that. It probably won't be everybody. And I do think that culturally this begins to take root in people's minds as a negative and bad thing. And so what otherwise might have nudged you and you could see the positive side of it, you now just see it as a negative. So I do think we have to be careful with cultural framing.
BCC Biz says, nice car. Oi, get nicked.
That's good. That's a good British accent. I like that.
I tried my best. I'm trying to do you proud, Lisa.
Oi. That is awesome.
Okay, yeah, this doesn't make sense to me. I do, again, respect women. I have a daughter. I wouldn't want anybody to call her
Hassan
sweet cheeks.
cat calls Asmund. That's hilarious.
Come on, man. What's really happening? What happened to the charm? What happened to the charmingness in all of these things?
Well, I like to think that's still out there, but hopefully nobody's getting arrested for being suave. That would be even more catastrophic.
All right. And can you find the human in this AI?
I really like this, actually.
There we go.
So for those who can't see their screen, this is a guy like drawing
too
a house.
bad.
Hey, Dad, AI turns it into a house.
Just trying to get my sketch ready. What do you think?
It looks nice, but it needs a cool car.
Have at it.
Kid draws a really awkward car.
Cool.
But the AI
Where's
knows
it
what to do with
going?
it. Turns it into a
can
badass
go
car.
anywhere.
Somewhere like a rainforest? No.
Instant update.
The North Pole. Or somewhere really sunny
This stuff
and
is-
sandy. Like
I can't imagine. Pause for a
the
second. The one thing I can't imagine is, so I was obsessed with Robotech when I was a kid. And I would be babysat by my grandparents a lot. So I'd go to their house. They obviously didn't want to pay attention to me. So I would just sit there and draw Robotech stuff. But I can't draw at all. So I would draw like these really simple shapes, but I would just imagine Robotech. Was that better or worse than this? I don't know. There is something very cool about being able to like see the things you can imagine. It is really neat. And I've done this with like some of the comics that I've written where I'll sit down with the AI and I'll start imagining the characters and what they would look like and like what's just the style of the universe. It's very, very fun. But at the same time, there is a reason I don't do audible notes. The reason I don't do audible notes is there's something about having to slow down and type that allows me to really think about what I'm writing in a way that just talking out loud doesn't. So is there something to the creative process being slower that like lends a depth to it? I don't know. That could be particular to me, but I do worry that when it just comes so easily that you don't cherish it, it doesn't embed itself in your psyche. Like if you can just create a realistic car driving, the next second a jet plane, whatever. Like there's no like, oh, this is that thing I created that one day. You know what I mean? Like Lisa's a world-class artist, so this might be slightly different for her, but she still has drawings that she did of like her mom when she was 10. And it's like part of the family lore is like that thing that she created that her mom was like, assumed it was her older sister. She was like, there's no way that someone so young could draw something so good. And all of that goes away because now it's just like whatever you want. So I don't know, there's going to be a second and third order consequence, even though I love this. And as a builder, like it's so exciting, the way that it reduces cost. I think there is going to be a price to pay, but I like the way they set this up with the husband, or sorry, not the husband, but the father and son, like doing something together.
There were already talks about how AI is lowering the cognitive function of certain people. Like they're not as creative. They're not coming up with.
I need to look at that study. Intuitively, that doesn't feel true to me because it might be. But when I think about how much faster I'm able to learn now with AI, it's amazing. So I would be shocked if you put me in an fMRI machine and you're seeing my brain waves slow down. So I'm sure there's a way to use it where it's like, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I'm just like blindly prompting. But if you're just trying to push your abilities, you're trying to think through the problem, you're pushing it, you don't accept that whatever it gives you is just obviously true and you're trying to like question things, but like it's access to instant information, but you're still trying to build the argument. It is insanely powerful.
Nice. We'll see. I don't know. I feel like the kids just prompting and getting everything they want is going to have a consequence. I can't say what that is though, but it's just like I'm not as good with directions as my dad is. I feel like these new generation of kids won't be as creative as we are because they could just doo-doo, it's done, doo-doo-doo, it's done. And they don't have those problem solving skills that creative constraints often like force you to have.
That is the right question. And then the secondary question is, will we care? Or will this just be like, yeah, people aren't as good with horses as they used to be, and nobody cares? So, all right, everybody, there it is. Thank you as always for joining us. It was wonderful to have you today. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and we will see you on Friday, 6 a.m. Pacific time. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care. Peace.